Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto leaves Konoha after being treated like trash and went Devil World Highschool DxD, Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for Part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Princess Kuna was in a bind. She notices how her mama usually got tired after everyday work and see her home sleeping on the table or the floor and not on her bed. When she was younger, her mama usually tucked her to bed at night and read her stories before she was asleep. Kuna missed those nights. Nowadays, mama always has work. Starting the day at sunrise and then going home long past dinner and tired, only to do it again the next day without delay. Just a few weeks ago, she saw her mama in a panic running to work. Something about two cute teenagers dropping from the sky like something great red vomited after having a bad cut of sashimi, then chased down with moldy tea. Then a big old tree suddenly grew at a fair distance and seemed to blanket the entire city of Kyoto after a week. She saw mother receiving reports and reading through them throughout the night, then receiving complaints from farmers and old folks complaining about the giant tree blocking someone else's beautiful view of their property, and that it was really driving down the value of her house, and that she swears her neighbor was probably committing an affair with the cafe owner in Shirakawa Dori. It's not my fault that a stupid tree popped out of nowhere. Ask your realtor? Why is this my problem? She once heard her mom rant and rambled, reading report after report that she swears was not part of the job or that some of them didn't even deserve to have any attention that would be required of her. A week after that, said teenagers were gone for a few days, came back to the giant tree and offered it some gifts. It then dropped 3 suspicious-looking fruit from above and 3 more people came out, 2 very beautiful girls, both with peculiar looks, one with pink hair and the other a pair of white eyes, and one with gray hair with a mask for his face came out of the fruit when it split, like it came straight out of the Momotaro legend. Is this where babies come from? If so, why was it so hard for Kuna's wish for a baby brother or sister to come true? What did she have to offer to this great tree for such a gift? She asked her mom a few days since then, bothering her constantly whenever she had a chance, and her mama paling and flinching when she did so. Her mom eventually caved in and asked the 2 teenage boys what they did. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. Thus the blonde one explained to her how they did it. One night she snuck out of the house and offered the tree something precious, her last cookie of the day, and it didn't even drop a leaf. She felt lied to. In fairness, she probably thought at the end that she was probably not paying for keeps at that. She may have to offer something more than just her cookie for the day. At least, that's what one of the teenagers said. Probably it was Naruto. He was blonde, so she was inclined to believe what he said. Being leader of the Yukai faction was hard. And when Kuna could fully grasp her mother's problem and just how much responsibility was given on her shoulders, she thinks, in her own way, just how to ease her mother's responsibilities. Kuna was walking in the mansion, her thoughts drifting lazily like a cloud in a clear sky, absent-mindedly walking and not minding the people she came across. Many of the people in the mansion were looking at Yasaka's daughter in confusion as she was thinking, hand cutely on her chin, brainstorming, thinking of a way to ease her mother's worries. "Kuna-sama?" one of the servants asked. The bubbly little girl, for a second, didn't respond, until she finally looked up when several of the house's workers were now looking at her with curiosity due to her deep thoughts. One of the maids then proceeded to ask, "Is something wrong?" Kuna looked up. "Oh, I was thinking about what to do to make mom's work easier." Everyone in the house cried in tears of joy as they praised Kuna's cuteness and worry for her mother. Bless this child's heart. The solution was quite simple. Government bureaucracy tended to function better when there are more people who would filter out small concerns to much more pressing issues. It tends to apply to many governments around the world. But Kuna, bless her heart, still did not know that. So to her, it was much more difficult to come up with an answer. She begins to think again. This time, she sits down at one of the mansion's halls, not being bothered until dinner time. Until she heard some worrying stories that happened outside her beloved Kyoto. And now the gears in her head started spinning. Yasaka. It had been a while when Yasaka could have a break. It had just been one incident after another. Several weeks ago, her city had just been an epicenter of a strange anomaly. The dimensional gap just happened to gracefully give her 2 teenage boys that had a power scale of nukes that could cause an apocalypse and turn the entire planet into a nuclear wasteland if it didn't break first. A cold sweat had escaped several pantheons or 2, who made it their personal business to probe and investigate her city. Nothing a few political theatrics and lies that could be solved, but the after effect was quite a mess. But she had her goals after those meetings, and all seems well for now. When the 2 had awoken, the first thing that broke out was a fist fight. These two were apparently enemies? After looking into it further, they were former friends, then turned enemies, then allies, then standing on opposite ideological spectrums, but one was willing to kill the other while the other wanted to smack some sense into the other one. It was a good thing that Amaterasu had given her 2 collars and had it placed on their necks before they woke up to suppress their powers. It was a bit kinky looking and Yasaka felt so much shame like no other that day as she placed them on teenagers, but it worked. After a week of sorting out their emotions, she was glad that Kyoto had several therapists, and it certainly helped that said therapist also worked under her. Thank goodness for competent subordinates. After a few days, said teenagers had asked for a chance to get out. They were apparently looking for seeds of chakra. An old man had told them to. Now, there are certain lessons she had to teach these 2 shady old men, instructing them to do something that could be misconstrued as sexual, but Yasaka was convinced. The blonde, Naruto, had a way with words and he convinced her to let them do it. A few more years and he could see a man in those pecs. Yasaka coughed a little and blushed at her thoughts. Naruto was still a teenager, he has the maturity of one and any more thoughts about it would label her as a cradle robber. But Naruto did look like he had been forming good cuts on his guns and his stomach. Yasaka vehemently shook her head. No, bad Yasaka. Another week passes by, the 2 returned and had with them several trinkets. And Yasaka was sure that these 2 only did it because they wanted a vacation. They just returned with 3 larger than average plant seeds and sowed them at the edge of town. Now there was a giant tree that was almost as tall as Tokyo Tower and 3 fruits that looked like peaches were dropped. Upon breaking them, a la the tale of Momotaro style, 3 honest-to-goodness humans had popped out, 2 women, teenagers, and 1 man looking like he was in his late 20s. Yasaka shuddered. Not because of how it happened, but because it was going to confuse her daughter about where babies come from. And she had been asking for a baby sibling for quite some time. Speaking of her daughter, her servants informed her of Kuna looking troubled and looking adorable while at it, their words. Her little ball of fur had observed how stressed she was as of late, and was thinking how to lighten her load. Yasaka could not help but be happy due to her daughter's little worries. She was sure that her solutions wouldn't help, but it was the thought that counts. That reminds her, Yasaka had to bring Naruto and Sasuke to dinner tonight. She had to check up on her wards and see how they were holding up. When dinner had arrived, the 2 teenagers were there in their table wearing completely opposite attires. Both of them wore kimonos, for sure, but the one with the black hair, Sasuke, wore his more formally. He wore the yukata in a much more dignified manner, preferring it to be prim and proper, but with much darker colors and a face that screamed that he wanted to be anywhere but here. In contrast to Naruto, the blonde, wore his informally, preferring to wear bright colors of red and orange, much more loose that showed a little bit of his muscle-bound chest. Little Yasaka smacks Yasaka with an imaginary paper fan, with the sleeves folded by binding rope on his shoulders. After their little trip that involved looking for strange seeds, the 2 of them had secluded themselves entirely, in opposite ways. Sasuke chose a quiet solitude, choosing a small home near the wilderness, with no neighbors or even sight of him. He preferred to be in a room on his own, only coming out to take out the trash and walk back in quietly. The pink-haired girl, the one named Sakura, decided to live with him and look after him, but even then, Sasuke opted to interact very little with the world. Naruto chose to keep himself busy. Being a teenager with no educational equivalent to their own, no job and no money on his own, he was grateful for Yasaka's charity. They were basically freeloaders. With no income, no job and not in training, Naruto thought that they were being a burden on Yasaka and were taking advantage of her kindness way too much. In the morning he would usually be seen tiring himself out in training and wouldn't rest for long. He would then disappear often into the woods, looking for something quiet to do whatever it is he needed to do. One time, he went fishing, went home by the afternoon with his catch and proceeded to give all of it to his neighbor to give them something to cook. He would often go home and see the wide-eyed girl Hinata, in his kitchen cooking something. He would eat, appreciate the company, be animated even, but when the light grows dim and the night comes, Naruto would go out of that small home and just go up to the roof and look up. Many would say that he would just stay there until past midnight, and then wake up a mere 2 hours later, and would keep himself busy again. Yasaka looks at the 2 boys who were quietly eating their dinner while Kuna looks in between the 2 boys and her mother. She looked jittery, ready to explode, as if she wanted to say something that must be heard. But she couldn't speak right away, not when 2 boys were eating their dinner in complete silence. It was like both of them didn't want to talk to each other even after their trip. Yasaka had been warned by their counselor. It seemed like these 2 were suffering from varying degrees of depression. One who chooses to wallow in that darkness and quietly fade away from life, and another who was looking for a remedy in places that held no answers for him. So how was your day, boys? Yasaka wanted to connect, truly she did. Troubled young men, perhaps a bit older than her own daughter who had no parents and no guardians to talk to, had no way of venting their emotions to anyone. That adult that they cracked open from the peach, Kakashi was it? Had opted to look for a job and was busy with his own problems as well. She thought that responsibility would have been placed on his shoulder if it weren't for the fact that all 5 of them had lost their entire world. Friends, families, entire support systems gone in just a snap. That kind of pain was unimaginable. No one should have to go through that. Nothing comes to mind, Sasuke was quick to answer, speaking after he finished chewing. Sasuke spoke with manners, he ate with a certain refined grace, but he spoke so little and so sullen. In the weeks that Yasaka had known Sasuke, his taciturn behavior became subdued. As if he had done something terrible. Went fishing again. I caught a lot again earlier. Naruto spoke, grains of rice sticking near his mouth. He then continued, gave them all up to the neighbors. The family there was quite poor. I heard Mr. Katsumoto got fired the other day, and they only had rice available, so I gave all my catch up to them when I heard we were having dinner here. Seemed like they needed it more than I do. In contrast to Sasuke, Naruto was much more social, a bit uncouth, his mannerisms could use some work. The boy, from what Yasaka could pick up, was probably an orphan. He was brash and had little regard for table manners. But when Yasaka had scolded him, he was obedient and listened to her like a good child. He also connected much easier with Kuna, who entertained her curiosity and answered questions as best as he could. If he were to be nearer to the mansion, her daughter would have stuck with Naruto like glue. Mom! Yasaka turned to his daughter, who was giddy with excitement. I heard that you've been getting tired at work recently, and I was thinking of ways to help. Yasaka nodded. Her pride and joy spoke with such empathy and kindness in mind, she acted for her mother's benefit. Such a wonderful child. And I noticed that you've been getting swamped with work that you hardly get home to read me stories anymore. Kuna looked sad at that part. Naruto and Sasuke, knowing the loss of parents, and knowing that kind of pain, suddenly turned to Kuna. Here they were, having lost everything. No dream, no motivation, no idea what to do. Their world was gone, almost all of their friends were gone too. The seeds that they carried and planted that was supposed to save their kind and get away from Mugen Tsukuyomi had failed. They could only save 3 people. And those 3 had their own pain to deal with too. Kakashi is the first to come to terms with his. The man had finally gotten his closure with Obito's death. His only lifeline remaining now were his students. Most of Konoha was gone. Hell, most of the shinobi world was gone. An entire civilization wiped out. Now they were the ones left remaining. Sakura is still coping from the loss of her parents. Hinata is doing the same with her father, her cousin and sister. They were all gone. Nothing was left. Dreams are dashed away in a blink of an eye. Arriving in this world, they had intended to correct the mistakes of their ancestors each in their own way. But now, they couldn't even do that. It was like trying to hold on, but all of it slipped through their fingers like sand. They became aimless, living for the sake of living, surviving barely with no idea what to do. They were breathing corpses. But somehow, learning of a little girl's problem of trying to connect with her parent, both Sasuke and Naruto could understand Kuna's plight and her wish. I heard about your problem with yokai and curses giving you problems, Mama, and your work has been piling up with them too. So I decided. Yasaka did not like where this is going. I'm going to make a group dealing with those bad yokai. They need a timeout. Kuna then bent back and grabbed a piece of paper with a lot of drawings and crayon with the word spank in front of her mom. It also had a crude drawing of what Yasaka could identify as Naruto and Sasuke. This also fixes your problems with Naruto and Ai-san and Sasuke and Ai-san. Now, they aren't freeloaders. Kuna said this with a smile as her eyes sparkled at proposing a personal disciplinary squad of world-ending teenagers under her daughter's beck and call. To this, Naruto couldn't help but laugh. Really laugh. Laughed so hard that his stomach ached because of Kuna's suggestion. He looked over to Sasuke. He seemed uninterested, but he wasn't scowling nor mad about it. Yasaka's left eye was twitching with her little girl's idea. What does spank mean, Kuna-chan? It means super-powered anti-naughty Kuna squad. Of course, naming it after herself was a very Kuna thing to do. She really tried to make a name that had to fit spank, didn't she? Who was the culprit of this idea? Kuna couldn't have possibly come up with it alone. Everyone in the mansion suddenly felt a cold sweat coming out. Was some already planning to call in sick the next day? It was a good thing that this proposal was just from a child's wish to bond with her mother. No way was this. Wait a minute. Kuna-chan? Why does this paper have a stamp of my seal? Yasaka was now hyperventilating, sweating profusely as she sees a stamp of approval coming from her. She didn't know about this, she was sure she read every proposal today. And it got forwarded to the council for a meeting tomorrow. Oh, you know Mr. Garesu who always looks like he's mad at me every day when I go to his office and bug him? The Office of External Affairs. Yasaka felt like she was going to have an aneurysm. She nodded quietly, uneasy, like Kuna was dropping a bomb unintentionally. With a smile on her face. Well, I just discovered that if you bother him enough, he'll let you do whatever you want, so he gave me the seal and had it stamped. Aren't you proud of me, Mom? I'm going to kill that bastard. So the Spank Squad is born. Yorishika onegai shimasu, Ka-sama. Yasaka's left eyebrow was currently twitching in annoyance. The reason being. All in favor of the Spank Squad formation, may I have your ice? There was a unanimous agreement within Kyoto leadership concerning whatever scheme it was that one of them have to come up with. It better be a damn good one, or at least an entertaining one. Many of the yokai who lived in Yasaka's capital city yearned for sanctuary and peace. And it had been several hundred years since the last disturbance. They felt like they needed to have some action in their lives. But many of these old fogies did not even consider the lives still outside Kyoto. There were still violations that could risk the exposure of their kind to the outside world, and the biblical faction had been side-eyeing them for years. Such was the disconnect of the capital to the outside world. It could be compared to the imperial court of Heiankyo and the provinces outside the capital. Lazy dullards of the capital apathetic to the plights and unquestioning to the situation of those not from the capital. This complacency resulted into the Genpei War, where the Taira and the Minamoto had clashed and ultimately leading to the death of an emperor. Nowadays, the political presence of daimyo were gone, instead replaced with representatives that make up parliament. That was for the humans. For the yokai, a central figure does exist, but the policies that ran below her were practically non-existent outside of her city, reduced to something close to a fiefdom rather than a modern country. There were no cities or settlements for yokai outside Kyoto. Much as the city lives in quite a magnificence, the extent of that grandiose did not reach beyond her city limits. All 20 members of the council had agreed unanimously. Kuna's little disciplinary squad was now officially a legitimate organization. I see that you didn't even have time to think about it, esteemed council members. One of the members, Ayatagarasa, merely smiled and said, Don't sweat the details so much, Yasaka-dano. Little Kuna wants to be proactive in pacifying violent yokai? I say we let her take command. That is precisely why I'm skeptical about it. Yasaka replied. There was no venom in her voice. God knows how much she would have spewed if they would let her. Forming the sentence with violence right next to her daughter's name was exactly that problem. And pacifying? She wasn't the one calling for samurai to unite under the capital to conquer the northern lands. It's not like it's a serious group anyway, right? They don't even have a budget proposal to look into seriously. Kikuchiyo, head of accounting and budget officer. Really? They looked into this crayon-filled piece of paper and considered it seriously? Besides, Kuno-sama looks so enthusiastic. I don't want to break her heart just because her mom said it's just a little girl's fancy. Daimon, Minister of Peace and Internal Affairs. All the while Yasaka was eyeing the head of External Affairs and looking like he wanted to melt in his chair. If Yasaka didn't know any better, her sweet and innocent Kuna would be suspected of bribing the entire council. Sasuke. Sasuke stared into the wall blankly into his own room. He had woken up in the morning, a roof above his head, a bed beneath him, and nothing else. His room was dark, no sunlight had reached the place. He had boarded the windows and blocked any form of it in his room when he got the place. It was one of the subsidized houses that Yasaka provided for people like him, lost, alone, with no money and no identification. He had intended to revolutionize the world. The death of the Kaga was the start of that. He vowed to himself that he would change the world, and that change included to shoulder the hatred of the world to him. What he got was that his vision of peace not coming true. He was exiled by his own hands for trying to do what was right, and now he holds nothing. With everyone now trapped under infinite Tsukuyumi with no way of dispelling it, Sasuke had thought that maybe it was for the best. Until Naruto had told him about the countless more he had condemned due to his ambition. Like his ancestor, Madara, Sasuke found fault in the shinobi system that Hashirama envisioned. The initial aim of the first Hokage was to minimize conflict, but it had the opposite effect. It only made conflict on a wider scale and now with lesser affiliations and more defined borders. Generations of untold suffering was the result of a system that did not once lay down their arms as Hashirama did so. When the Fourth Great Shinobi War happened, Sasuke finally saw what the founders of his village truly wanted. They too were victims of their time and sought after a solution to stop their brothers from dying in war. Sasuke, for the first time that time, finally had a chance to understand the position of others against his own. He had sought then to change the world and reshape it the way he wanted to. If peace is a result of tearing down the very foundations of the 5 great nations, then he shall do it upon his discretion. He shall shoulder the burden of hate from the world and resist in kind as its shadow dictator. But it never came to pass. When he had awoken in this new world, he had nothing now. Not even the name of the Uchiha that he once carried with pride. Up until now, Sasuke only knew with what was given to him. Blessed by gifts meant for destruction, the burden of his blood weighed heavily onto him. But that now came at a different price. His trail of destruction ends his entire civilization. What power he had meant to control the world could not stop the same power that opposed his ideals, and his reward for thrusting upon the world his wrath were the lives of an entire world. On this realization, Sasuke held his mouth and proceeded to vomit his entire soul by the side a week after finally waking up. The sage had warned him, but he did not heed that cautionary advice. He thought so arrogantly that he alone could carry such a burden. His blood, his eyes, his conviction. But his reckless idea gave him nothing, not even an empire of sand. He stares into the wall. In his dreams, the sage offered him a chance of redemption, and to Naruto, a chance of salvation. The sage of 6 paths had told them of their chakra, spilling over to this world, altering the flow of the world's nature chakra and condensing into seeds of life that seemed to mimic the Shinju, divine tree. From there, Hagoromo instructed them to plant these seeds and through the vastness of time and space, shall transfer the chakra of their world through here, and those trapped by the divine trees shall be set free here. He once asked if that involved those who were unaffected by the first light of Mugen Tsukuyomi, and Hagoromo nodded. The divine tree, left unattended, will consume all. Kakashi and Sakura were the last people on their world to be conscious, but they were also consumed by the divine tree's chakra. Seeking a chance to right his wrongs, he and Naruto jumped at the opportunity to do so, and it took them 2 weeks of finding only 3 plant seeds that were brimming with chakra. In desperation and time limit, both of them returned back to Kyoto and planted the seeds at the outskirts of town. Hope had driven him to this point. That hope of redemption was what kept him going. He looked over to Naruto that day and he could see his desperation as the tree grew and immediately bloomed 3 chakra fruits that bore them Team 7 and the Hyuga that Naruto had called out to. This was their reward. It was here that Hagoromo had appeared before them and told them that the consumption of the great tree was far too great and that their residual chakra was the only thing that protected these 3 from total consumption. Naruto refuted, telling the old man that he had shared his chakra to the entire alliance, but Hagoromo shook his head. That was his chakra before they transcended. His 6 paths chakra only called out to those who they yearned for. Naruto recalled Hinata's final moments before the tree had consumed her. Her thoughts had connected to him without even doing any jutsu. Salvation was no longer viable. This is now Sasuke's world. An empty man without dreams, no goals, not even expectations. What he now carried was the weight of his sins, not ambition. A man who had killed an entire world for the dream. And what was left? Emptiness. What had he to look forward to after everything? Sasuke knew within himself that death was his only reward now. But even he had no right to take his life. This was his punishment for his arrogance. What would his clan think of him now? What would Itachi think of him? The questions haunt him. Good morning, Sasuke Anai-sama. A high-pitched voice cries out, melodic and filled with enthusiasm. Sasuke wordlessly glances at Kuna, who had come to fetch him from his isolation. Sasuke merely shook his head and gently pushed the little girl away from him. You shouldn't associate yourself with a murderer, was his only answer. He said this to Sakura as well. But the girl didn't want to leave him alone. Not out of love, but out of a need to care for someone who had a rug pulled under his feet. To this, Kuna tilted her head. Did you murder someone, Sasuke Anai-sama? Lots of people, Sasuke answered. He finally got up and opened the door to his room. He was surprised that Kuna managed to get in. He left the door locked more often than not. He didn't give one spare key for Sakura. It was strange, he had closed himself off to everyone, even to the person who had called him his friend. Yet this little girl, in all of her curiosity, he entertained her questions, personal ones at that. Sasuke couldn't fight fault in Kuna's attitude. She was a child after all. Just like what he once was. Why did you kill them? She asked, curious. The enthusiasm was there, but that was subdued by something else. A child's sense of trying to understand. He killed them because it was necessary. He usually tried to justify those lives he had taken. But wiping out all life on his world was a scale he had not foreseen. I didn't mean to. Partly. He only had a few people to kill for his plan to work. But what he got was more than what he bargained for. That was the honest-to-goodness truth to it. But if you didn't mean to, doesn't that mean that you didn't want to kill them? Kuna asked, now in her thinking mode again. Sasuke was quiet for a second before he answered, I suppose. That's one way of putting it. But even then, even if I intended to do it, those people? They're gone, swept away because of my wish. Sasuke continued, grabbing a rice cake from his pantry and giving it to Kuna. What was your wish, Sasuke and Ai-sama? Sasuke, without even contemplating for words, answered the little girl immediately, I wanted peace. There was silence in that house. Sakura had left earlier, probably finding time to grieve for herself. Sasuke wished that she would leave him alone. He was not worth saving. I got tired of always being angry, always chasing ghosts, always losing someone, always looking for a place to rest, always fighting and trying to come up with a solution that was permanent. I wanted to look for a place that I could call home. When Sasuke said those words, he had gripped his own mug in frustration, anger and guilt. It was the kind of hurt that he did not wish on anyone. Nisama, you're a kind person. Sasuke wanted to laugh at the child's perception of him. He was anything but. You wanted to stop hurting people, you kept looking to find ways to stop, and you feel bad when you do. Bad people don't feel that. Sasuke stops for a moment, he recalls all the people who have reached out to him. The way he lost them and the way he threw them away. The guilt wouldn't stop coming. He nodded silently as he prepared some tea. Kuna thought Sasuke just needed to have people around him, not isolating himself. He needed someone to tell him that he committed mistakes, that he was already on timeout for being a bad person. But somehow, Kuna felt like she shouldn't be saying that, someone else needed to say that. Alright. Evaluation of Sasuke and Ai-sama done. He's cleared to be part of Spank. Let's go to Naruto and Ai-sama. Naruto. When Naruto first opened his eyes in this place, he thought it was weird seeing people having ears in weird places, or birds having human-like appendages. Personalities, he could understand. Talking animals weren't exactly rare in his world. But humans having animal traits was not something he had encountered before unless it was him. He felt the connection to the world suddenly thin out. Like a rubber band being stretched to its absolute limit, and was about to snap. They had finished sealing up Kaguya. And upon their agreement of releasing infinite Tsukuyami, Sasuke had declared his intention to the world. Naruto was forced to battle his old friend for one more time at the Valley of the End. Blows were traded, fists went flying, chakra flung and wasted. They had turned the valley into a wasteland with that battle. It all started with punches and kicks, escalating to techniques and then going back to punches and kicks. The tempo reaching its peak when Naruto had been forced to use a technique that could have very well ended his world. But luckily it didn't, and both of them were forced to duke it out even when their rhythm had dramatically decreased. Forcing to fight even when extremely fatigued to the point of chakra exhaustion. It ended with one more Rasengan and one more Chidori, pouring out everything in their attacks. And now waking up into this unknown world with no idea how to get back. When he finally gained all of his senses, he saw Sasuke up already. He felt that snap suddenly happening and Naruto was immediate with his response. He immediately assaulted the last Uchiha. You bastard! What did you do? These were Naruto's first words to him, as he felt like everyone fading away from him. His fists were shaking with indescribable rage. Kurama was unconscious still and no one could rein him in. Sakura, Kakashi, Hinata and the rest. They were gone. Their fight had alerted Yasaka, who had finally explained to them what happened. To say that Naruto was shocked would be an understatement. They had found him half dead. They were unconscious for a week, bruised, battered and broken. He was fading in and out, mumbling in his sleep about his fight with Sasuke. With these words Naruto forced himself to be calm. But he couldn't shake away the feeling that this time, he couldn't just take Sasuke's actions just lying down. When he was much better, Naruto thought about confronting Sasuke, but he stopped. He could only get angry and only say more hurtful words that would drive another wedge in between them. He was better physically, but his mind was elsewhere. He needed to get out. He needed to put away his thoughts and try to calm down. For the better part of the week, Naruto focused on moving his body and then going into the forest on his own with no mind for his safety. In the forest, he began to train, focusing on moving his body along and finding a lake to have a makeshift rod for fishing. He never liked feeling sad for very long and would often find one form of escapism to relieve his mind of the stress that was assaulting him. In time, his anger decreased, but there was a genuine resentment that remained. He had lost his dream. The title of Hokage was a dream he had as a mere child. That dream was a representation of all his goals and his wishes, acknowledgement, happiness. Even if the family he gains then were not an actual family like the one he wanted, he would have been happy nonetheless. The worst part of it all, he could not even enact on his hatred, as it would mean as a betrayal to all that he has learned about enduring pain and turning it into strength. In his grief of having lost it all, he went into the forest and let alone a shout so loud to let out all his frustrations. And through it all, no comforting words can get through with the despair he felt. He had embraced everything, after working so hard. And now, he was back with nothing. And now here he was again, back just after last night. The sting of being reminded that he was an orphan began to resurface. He did not resent Kuna, no, far from it for him to vent his anger on a child that only wanted to connect with her mother. He was just reminded on what he lost and what he worked hard for, only to slip away from his hands again. He stands before a large smooth-faced stone. He had a plan. He planned to etch the names of people he once knew. He hasn't even started and already his heart is in pieces. The Rikudo Sennin offering him hope but failing and that said hope being dashed away as they couldn't save everybody. He always hated this part of the day for him when he started. But it was his way of coping with grief. As someone who believed in the will of fire, the will of those who passed on were placed on his shoulders. The Rikudo Sennin had given him hope, forced to go around in a wild chase against an impossible time limit. Only to be reminded by the old man that almost no one was left. Naruto gritted his teeth. He began writing names once more on the stone's surface. Slowly, tears began falling down his face. The first name was always the hardest to write. You're like a little brother to me, come back alive, Naruto. Yumino Irika. My teacher entrusted me with many things. Some important, some petty. All sorts of things. You too, right? Nara Shikamaru. I think of you as a friend. Gaara. Because you called me a genius. Hyuga Niji. Become a good Hokage and an even better man. Tsunade. Naruto and Ai-sama, are you crying? His thoughts were stopped. He looks to his side and finds the face of a worried Kuna looking at Naruto as he carves the names of his loved ones on the flat of the giant stone with a wind chakra-enhanced kunai. Naruto wiped away his tears and then stared up at the large stone that he had been carving for the better part of his stay in this world. Just fixing things, Naruto replied, not knowing how to explain to Kuna what he felt currently. But he knew that he had to put a brave front for the girl and grieve on his own after this. Fixing things? Kuna echoed. She turned to the stone and saw the names of people she did not know. I'm trying to fix myself, actually. I don't know. I'm lost and have no idea. Naruto then sits down on the ground, legs crossed as he held his head with both hands. Kuna, seeing that she couldn't get through this way to Naruto, decided to try something else. Who were they? Kuna asked as she pointed to the names. Naruto looked up at the names, taking a few moments to recollect himself as he dug into his memories, for what little pleasures he had of them before the war. He let out a little smile as he finally answered, they were my friends and so much more. His comrades, his siblings, his family? People that he lost. What were they like, and Ai-sama? Naruto could feel the sting of his loss once more, but now much less, they were the best. Kuna made a mental note about Naruto and Ai-sama. He is happiest when he talks about his friends. And what he needed were new ones. To help him move on. As Naruto talks about his friends, he got up and began carving names once more. This time, the grief he carried lessened. When they returned back to town, Naruto and Kuna saw Hinata by the subsidized housing he was living in, and for the first time in a long while, Naruto was the first to take initiative. I'm sorry for being a mess. Naruto apologized and bowed to Hinata, who shook her head. I think we all are right now, Naruto-kun. I've been going to the forest all this time, trying to process everything, and I want to help you with your grief too, Hinata. Naruto said as he explained what he had been doing all this time. He encouraged her to do the same, to list down names onto the memorial he had been doing. To talk about happy memories in their moment of grief. Kuna took another note. If Sasuke Oni-sama was kind, Naruto Oni-sama was forthright and caring. He was the type of person who couldn't leave anyone alone in their pain. Both men knew love and both men expressed that love differently. Perhaps they were just two people on the opposite sides of the same coin. Naruto and Ai-sama passes. He's now a part of my squad. Next up, uniforms. The next day, afternoon. The mansion was up in arms with extra work done due to their involvement of acting as co-conspirators for Kuna's plan. The guest room had been converted to an office, complete with a large desk and 4 chairs. Why 4, you ask? 2 chairs were for the guests, and 2 more for the chairman of Spank and her plush kitsune assistant Mitsun-san. On another side is a smaller table that was to be her conference and debriefing, whatever that is, thought Kuna, table with 6 chairs this time. 2 for her guests, 1 for her, and 3 for her giraffe, bear and lion plushies, Kirin-san, Kuma-san and Siba-chan respectively. Kuna, still wearing her shrine maiden uniform, circles around her desk and sits on her comically large leather seat and now wearing sunglasses. She places her hands together and levels it just in front of her nose. Mitsun-san's chair slightly rotates to her owner's direction as Kuna mimics one of the most notorious parents in all of anime. My scenario is manifesting. The servants were inwardly clapping and taking snapshots. This was going to the album. Cute Kuna things. One wouldn't put an image of imitating Gendo Ikari and cute in one sentence. But the servants didn't need to know that. It was here that Naruto had entered the room. He took note the shelves were filled with plush toys and tea party sets. The blonde former shinobi now stands in her room wearing a white dress shirt beneath a black blazer with a fixed black tie at the front. Black pants and a pair of black dress shoes to finish the attire, but since he was in Kuna's mansion, he was wearing white socks. It was bad manners to wear shoes indoors. Sporting his new black suit was a pair of sunglasses on his face, although, since it was indoors, Naruto had to put the glasses up to his forehead. He couldn't see a damn thing in them. Sasuke came in next, wearing pretty much the same outfit as his partner. Nisama, what is our objective? Kuna asked, her lips hidden behind her hands. Put bad yokai in time out, Naruto answered, replying with as much seriousness as Kuna. And what do we say to bad yokai when we meet them? Kuna asked, looking at Sasuke expectantly. You've been a bad yokai, Sasuke answered after adjusting his sunglasses with his middle finger when he saw Naruto trying to hold his laughter down. Kuna cleared her throat as she had one of the servants hand over a piece of paper that came from the council. As the first meeting of Spank, our task for today is to create a constitution and bylaws? What's this? This is new. Naruto and Sasuke looked at Kuna then at each other. They knew just one person who would be both smart enough and stupid enough to do all of these menial tasks. Somewhere in Kyoto, working hard on making udon was Kakashi, who sneezed during his break. Good day. As described in the story, Naruto and Sasuke are limited by the restraints that they have from Yasaka, and if ever the need of going all out arises, then they have to ask permission first before they loosen up the two. It doesn't mean that they are at starting levels in the same vein as DxD/Jujutsu Kaisen/Dandadan. Their abilities are limited, that their higher tier of powers is currently on hold. But it doesn't mean that their abilities are held back indefinitely. Their limitation has a purpose, and that purpose is for them to discover themselves in the presence of their own vulnerability. Grief takes time, and although I want it to always be humorous, I think handling grief to be as serious as it is to still be there. I also wanted for them to take on the men in black aesthetic. That seems to also fit Dandadan and Jujutsu Kaisen. Naruto and Aisama, we have a problem. Kuna said this while her hands hid her mouth and nose on her desk as she presented to the table the obstacle for the next part of her scenario. It had already been 2 days of thinking about her little disciplinary squad made up of calamity-level teenage boys. Nothing came to mind when they were presented with the council asking them to create clearly defining laws on how the squad would function. On her paper was another crayon scribble trying to come up with her squad's first obstacle: legitimate bureaucratic substantiation. Naruto and Sasuke never had that problem before. They already worked under an established entity that had a structured workforce aside from mission assignments. Paperwork was usually delegated to a platoon leader to minimize contradictions and errors unless an incident report was required during missions. In other words, genin weren't required to submit paperwork, jounin were. And being that Naruto and Sasuke were at the bottom of the totem pole of shinobi hierarchy, they never faced the problem quite like they have now. They were essentially superpowered gophers. Though Sasuke had never thought much about all this bureaucratic nonsense, he knew this was a conspiracy of someone forming a roadblock on Kuna's little team. No one was probably taking this as seriously as her own mother. It was either she was only giving this order as a gentle way of discouraging her daughter for whatever scheme this was, or there was someone in the council who was actively looking for a way to nip the organization in the bud. That latter was so ridiculous to even consider that Sasuke decided to ignore it entirely. What are you going to do? We need help. Mitsun-san, can we even get this done? Mitsun-san was busy not existing. Ah, Mitsun-san, you're so useless. Mitsun-san was sad now. What about our tea party guests? Can they help us? Kirin-san was busy with his neck bent in a weird angle, Kuma-san was busy planting his face on the table, and Shiba-chan fell off her chair. Kuna pouted and slowly, her image of an apathetic, obsessed maniac was replaced by a cute little girl on the verge of tears. "And not gonna cry," she was reciting to herself, and Naruto just found it too adorable. "I may have an idea who can help us." Sasuke looked at Naruto suspiciously and replied, "You aren't seriously thinking of him, aren't you?" He's used to paperwork before, Sasuke. And he was in line to be Rokudaime. The last time I've known Kakashi, he was always late for meetings by exactly 2 hours after finding out his horoscope for the day would bring him bad luck at exactly 8 in the morning. On the day he was supposed to meet us at 8 in the morning. Sasuke deadpanned. "Well, it's better than leaving him on his own, right? I'm sure he has his issues to deal with. And we're looking like we're past playing pretend about this squad. Besides, he's changed since we were kids. He doesn't arrive late anymore mostly," Naruto replied. "Kakashi may have lost everything before this, he may as well be grieving as well. But unlike Sasuke, who thought that this was a sin he would carry in many lifetimes, and Naruto, who felt like everything fell apart, Kakashi was more adjusted to the idea of losing everything yet remained relatively resilient despite it." Kuna was looking at the two. "Who is Kakashi-san?" Both replied at the same time, "Our sensei." Kuna's gloomy mood was suddenly replaced with sparkles in her eyes. Whoever taught Naruto and Ai-sama and Sasuke and Ai-sama, to Kuna they sounded cool. "Okay, let's get him." Kuna was immediate to answer while Naruto held the child's hand before he said, "Nah, you should just let us go after sensei. He's not exactly easy to convince on the first go-around." In all actuality, Kakashi tended to push the wrong buttons on the first meeting. Said man didn't even meet Yasaka. Kuna tilted her head, "But I want to see how cool Kakashi-sensei is if he was your teacher?" Little Kuna really does like flattering her people too much. "Right, if Kuna wants to see Kakashi-sensei, we just have to get one more person to come with us." And that person was. Yasaka had a deadpan look on her face as both boys were walking through the streets of Kyoto, more specifically, the culinary and commercial area of Shirakawa-dori. Did she just hear them right? A human had managed to infiltrate her Kyoto and lay low? A human who had spiritual power would not dare enter her domain without being driven mad by all the yokai that live here and without her permission. Did Naruto and Sasuke hide him from her? That was unthinkable. These two were practically mooching from her personal coffers for weeks. The only time they didn't was when they ironically went on a tour. They were good kids, but if they were hiding a potentially dangerous man in her city. Yasaka thought for a moment, and found something that she could use as an excuse to abolish this so-called squad. She had been tearing her hair out for 3 days with just how fast her daughter's proposal was being railroaded to actual fruition. Yasaka didn't want to think about it. Either her daughter was so blessed by luck that she could probably win the lottery, or she was a political genius with a machine so quick to move that she was always getting caught off guard. "Kuna, aren't you too effective of a politician? You're supposed to be my sweet and a little dopey daughter of mine." As Yasaka said this to herself, they had finally managed to stop at an udon shop in midday just at the corner near the main government building. This happened to be a famous shop for government employees due to cheap prices and proximity, although from what she could recall, the owner was going senile and at the last she heard that the owner's child still had to make it back to town. This was where their teacher was hiding. He was right under our noses this whole time. Yasaka shuddered at the thought. He had been working part-time with this udon shop for weeks and nobody has even noticed. She would have to investigate her head of security for this. And he was this close to the main government building where most of the main cogs of Kyoto's government functioned. A really, really scary thought entered Yasaka's mind. If this man wanted to, he could have crippled the entire Kyoto faction on his own without even being framed as a culprit. Naruto and his affiliates were scary. Really scary. "Welp, he's here. Now how do we call him?" Naruto asked, looking at the other tree who felt the pang of hunger since it was already lunchtime. Kuna then raised her right hand and said to Naruto and Sasuke, "Troops, before we continue our mission, let's have lunch. Hunger is the enemy of all armies." "By the way, how did you know your teacher would be here?" Yasaka asked, and Naruto replied as if he had just dropped a simple eraser and had to pick it up. "Oh right, one of my techniques is to gather nature energy and use it for senjutsu. I use it to find people and sense intent." Yasaka's mouth fell to the floor. Someone was casually dropping bombs like the boy telling her that he was adept in senjutsu, the ancient art of sages. To one where the venerable Sun Wukong stood. Once they entered the shop, a frail voice had greeted them. A bit shaky and slow, but still loud enough that everyone could hear. Welcome to Tanuki Nairi, be best soba in the country, sit yourself comfy. I thought this was an udon restaurant, Sasuke replied, and Naruto sighed. He dealt with this before. He certainly didn't want to deal with it again. He looked over at the old man who was shaking, showing his age and a pair of big thick eyebrows that looked like wild bushes, a pair of ears on top of his head and a big fluffy tail in a mix of brown and a darker shade of brown. What did I say? You said udon? Naruto quickly replied, telling a white lie to just get things over with. I'm not senile enough to tell me what I sell, sonny boy. You want to fight? Yasaka, Naruto, and Sasuke all sighed in exasperation. This is annoying, all three thought at once while Kuna was laughing. Tanuki-aji-san is pretty funny, huh? What'll you be havin'? The old man quickly rolled off his previous volatile behavior while the four were quick to order. Kitsune udon. Both mother and daughter replied while Naruto continued, it ain't ramen, but I guess I'll be having Niku udon. Cake udon was Sasuke's quick reply. The old man then slowly went over to the cook's window and replied, Sheik, I need 2 kitsune udon, 1 Niku udon and 1 cake udon. For a senile old man, he doesn't act like it when it comes to work, Naruto replied, looking quite impressed that the old man still had the sharpest mind when it came to taking their order. I've read once that having routines helps with people like Tanuki-san. It gives them a semblance of control and familiarity. I guess he loved doing his job so much that he couldn't ever forget what it feels like giving his food up, Yasaka replied, causing Naruto and Kuna to nod fervently. 2 minutes later, their food was already up and served. Whoa, Tanuki-aji-san, you work fast. You already had our orders, Kuna replied. Her eyes sparkled once more as she looked at the completed orders. The way the food was prepared was even designed to look like it came from a top-class chef. The old man smiled and replied, Kata's a new worker here in my restaurant. He does most of the work for the past few weeks. My old bones ain't working like they used to, and he's become my best worker. He slings my udon like a damn machine. But didn't you say that your worker's name is Sheik at first? He's really Kata? Yasaka was confused. The old man kept saying different names that she could only imagine 3 people working behind the scenes and this guy confusing their names with their faces. Eh? What did you say? You mean my best worker Kaha? The old man was already setting the pace of the conversation as the guests were already confused. Father! A new face had arrived at the store, and had the same ears and tail as the old man Tanuki. Takako? What are you doing here? Came to Vistma? The old man asked. The woman, now called Takako, was silent for a few seconds and replied, Ma's been gone for 3 years now, Pa. Everyone paused at that as the old man was quiet for a moment again before he answered, I suppose you're right. She hasn't been opening her door in a long while. No wonder the house feels empty. Takako then turned to their customers and bowed deeply at them. Thank you for your patronage. As you can see, my father has been going senile for a while. Little routines like running the shop are what give my father comfort. As soon as I got word of my father's illness, I tried to get back home from Nara. But it had been a long journey traveling here and avoiding human settlements. It is a relief to know that someone took a part-time job to help my father run this place. It may not look like now, but father was very fond of this store and job. The old man then shouted to the cook's window, Takashi, you're on break. Get out and eat. Thanks for that, Watanuki-san. The man behind the kitchen replied, a voice as silky smooth and as relaxed as it was. Both Naruto and Sasuke were certain they were familiar with said voice. The man finally got up, spiky and upkept silver hair with a mask hiding the bottom half of his face, a scar on the left eye that once held the Sharingano. Naruto, Sasuke? Did you perhaps come here to enjoy the food? Kakashi asked. His eye smile showed no hostility towards his former students. Yasaka was already on guard as the man who had slipped under the guard of the entire Yukai faction had finally shown himself. The man casually waved at them. Whoa! I was right. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto and Ayasama and Sasuke and Ayasama told me you were their sensei. You look really cool. Why thank you, and who might the cute little girl be? Kakashi replied with the courtesy of a seasoned jounin that dealt with people in all walks of life. My name is Kuna, the daughter of the Yukai faction's leader and founder of Spank. A beat. Kakashi pointed to the girl and then turned to his 2 students. I mean, what am I looking at here? Naruto and Sasuke gave out another sigh. A few minutes later, Kakashi was sitting with his former students while they were eating their fill as Yasaka and Kuna sat in the opposite side of the table. So in true bureaucratic fashion, you've come seeking my help to be part of your personal hitmen. The council prefers the term disciplinary committee. Yasaka said this as flat and as quick as possible. Kakashi then looked up as he placed a hand on his chin. That sounds quite troubling, huh? And they approved such a request because they couldn't say no to your daughter? I find that incredibly unbelievable or extremely contrived. Yasaka couldn't help but agree. The leader of the yokai faction turns to the two teenage boys, wondering if they knew anything that was happening in the council. It was either they didn't care, or they were waiting for something to pop up instead. That reminds me, Kakashi-san, Yasaka interjected as the gray-haired jounin turned his attention to the voluptuous kitsune. I'm impressed in how much you were able to hide even from my senses. Had I been made aware that you opted to do some part-time work in my city, I would have personally asked for your assistance. Kakashi noted that the woman was feeling jumpy, paranoid even, that Kakashi would just up and leave and return to town without anyone noticing. It's not like I did it on purpose was not something Yasaka expect from someone who could hold the entire city hostage if he wanted to. The fact that he found work with the owner of this udon shop was not helping his case. Yasaka could only answer. Looking for a job with my skills in this place is kind of difficult. In my world, you can find a dozen or so people who have enough resentment for one another and settle disputes non-peacefully. Resorting to violence by proxy has been the go-to answer for many of the leaders back home. Here, it seems such methods are seen not as viable. Yasaka nodded. In this world, violence is not much of a solution these days. Many have taken the lessons of history to heart. The people of the land understand the horrors of war, as a drop of a weapon capable of ending all life in a city has scarred this country. Did you know, Kakashi-san? In the modern era of military doctrine, humans have come up with the term mutually assured destruction? Kakashi noted this as if the world had something close to his world, weapons of massive destruction that caused a stalemate, or the realization that those certain weapons were ever to be used, it would mean the total annihilation of both sides. He wished to avoid such a conflict soon, possibly in both his and Naruto's lifetime. The man shook his head at Yasaka's last question. I have no intentions of going back into battle so soon. What I wish for now is to find a place of solace, and hopefully never have to pick up a blade again to fight a war. Then you happen to be the man my people need. Yasaka said this seriously as she looked at Kuna, who looked back at her with a nod. I need someone to look after my daughter and her friends. My hands are tied with governing my faction here in Kyoto, and I am not confident with the council and where their loyalties lie. Indeed, there are reports of yokai attacking humans and planting curses within my country that torment the weak. My goal is to expand the influence of my faction, create not just one city in the world as a sanctuary for my people, but spread throughout the country. There are sure to be obstacles in the way, but your help will be appreciated. This time, Yasaka bowed. Her tone was pleading. Asking for the copy ninja to commit was not something Kakashi could fulfill. Yet with that desperation is what convinced Kakashi. Very well, I have no qualms in joining. Kuna got excited again. Kakashi-sensei, get. In another universe, a certain trainer sneezed loudly. Back in Spank headquarters, a new desk had been placed, this time, just beside the wall near the window, with Kuna's shelf now taking up the corner, adjacent to Kuna's own desk. The conference table had gotten bigger, a new chair had been placed. The wall closest to the conference table had been torn down, expanding the room, and the said table was replaced with something longer. Kuna's tea party guests were all placed at the farther end of the table. That's what they get for not contributing. Mitsun-san got demoted. And now Kuna once again sits on her comically large leather seat with her hands and arms resting on her desk and covering the lower half of her face. My scenario is manifesting. We're doing this again? Sasuke asked, and Naruto gave a nervous laugh. Naruto and Ayasama, can Spank now start functioning? Naruto didn't know how to answer that, so he turned his head to Kakashi, who was shaking his head. With what the council is asking from us? Technically no, admin work is something reserved for clan heads and assigned special jounin, so I'll need help constructing that paper. We still need a budget proposal and a logistics officer, maybe a communications officer too, since we'll have our operatives working outside the city. Kuna was already on the verge of tears again and replied, so we still can't help Mom now? Kakashi looked up, humming to think about an answer, and then replied, well, I do have two people in mind who can help me. It was here that Kuna received another envelope from one of the mansion's many servants. Huh? A letter of request from Shono City? Her eyes sparkled once more as she reads the letter. It was as if she had just discovered some sweets that happened to be untouched in the fridge. We have our first mission. Kuna yells as she goes around the office waving the letter around as if it was her first taste of victory. Naruto, Sasuke and Kakashi looked at Kuna as she pranced around with letter in hand. The entire squad has yet to be operational and already there was a request for work? Who keeps railroading this whole thing? Kakashi was now suspicious. Someone was deliberately accelerating this group and pointing somewhere. Was this bait? Are they being lured out of Kuna's presence? Kakashi wasn't sure. For now, he would have to trust the information given to them and hopefully, there wasn't a conspiracy that was going against mother and daughter. Still, he would have to be prepared just in case. Yarr, not even 5 minutes in and I already have to pick up a sword. 3 days later, Shono's city limits. Naruto and Sasuke stood outside a decrepit tunnel filled with overgrowth at the mouth of it. Multiple yellow lines and barricades were placed at the mouth, implying to both that this may have been a crime scene in the past, a series of brutal murders. We've made it to the target location. We're waiting for our contact to arrive, Sasuke declared over the phone as he and Naruto looked further around. Both of them were asked to carry a government-issued smartphone with Yukai specifications and started a live stream for the other members to watch through the camera phone it gave. This was apparently Yasaka's idea to see how Naruto and Sasuke operate, and hopefully glean on what they were capable of. I don't sense anything up ahead. Maybe we were led with false intel, or I'm thinking old info, Naruto asked, scratching his head as Sasuke didn't respond. Oni-sama. In our line of work, we must always believe our clients, Kuna shouted from the other line while both Naruto and Sasuke looked at each other, knowing that clients can be as deceptive as the enemy, remembering Tazuna and his harebrained scheme of scamming Konoha out of desperation. No wonder he was so jumpy and looked disappointed when a bunch of wet behind the ears genin turned out to be his only lifeline against a corrupt businessman. Are you the agents Kyoto has sent to stop Turbo Granny? Their thoughts stopped and turned around. A lady wearing a yukata was now present for a few meters away from them. The duo looked on guard for a moment but didn't show it to the lady. They had to look calm and unassuming. Sasuke and Naruto finally had a full view of the woman before them, beautiful, otherworldly silky straight black hair extending to the tip of her tailbone, her lovely figure hidden beneath her yukata but the upper part of her chest was bare to be seen, with several layers of silk and obi around her waist, embellishing her lascivious chest and hips. Her beautiful hair held back on her left side of the face by a hair ornament of red and gold, looking like a broken flower with ripped petals. Naruto didn't speak first, his eyes were narrowing down at the woman who had greeted them. Sasuke was the one to speak first. Yes, we were sent here to try and pacify Turbo Granny. We received a letter from a local priest that she had taken a victim inside and that we came here to pacify her as well as the local yokai that has cursed this place. Though I don't sense any negative emotions coming from inside. Naruto thought the local monster must have been dealt with earlier. Then at least let me serve you as a guide inside the tunnel. Turbo Granny is a rather cunning yokai that likes to make traps for her victims. This woman was pretty confident that Naruto and Sasuke would be able to take care of the yokai with no problems. The tunnel itself was a rather long passageway that reached deep inside the mountain. However, according to the intel they had, the tunnel was a straight line. There was simply no need for a guide to have been prepared just for an exorcism. As they went further inside, Sasuke was the first to speak. Awfully stupid of you to tell us we need a guide to find the target in a straight line. To this, the woman turns around with a surprised look on her face. Yeah, it was kind of suspicious of you to try and trip us up with your excuse. Who set you up for this? Naruto asked, hands behind his back as Sasuke summons Kusanagi into his right hand. I don't know what you're talking Abu. Save your script, lady. I can detect negative emotions and intent, which means you failed the vibe check. I won't ask again. Who set you up for this? Naruto asked. Their guide had not realized it, but now she notices that the blonde's eyes had changed. He did not carry those same blue eyes as before when he was at the entrance. The blonde was sporting a pair of golden orbs under the cover of darkness. His pupils did not resemble a human's, it looked like a cross. Oh, it seems my deception wasn't even needed, huh? The lady's face didn't even change emotion, however, all manner of pretense was dropped on the ground. Not answering, huh? Guess we'll have to beat it out of you. Sasuke's eyes flashed a dangerous red, showing a pair of fully mature Sharingan eyes in the process. I don't think you understand how much in trouble you two boys are in right now. The woman yelled as his body undergoes a hideous transformation. 6 legs suddenly burst from her back as her face shifts, fangs elongating, the top of her head forming 6 more eyes as her kimono rips from her person, exposing a fair amount of her bosom to the two boys. That served as a distraction, As soon as she shows her chest, the Jorumo had already deployed her silk threads all around, completely surrounding the two boys. Ah, Naruto and Ai-sama, Sasuke and Ai-sama, cover your eyes. That lady is a pervert, shouted Kuna through their phone. A few seconds later, she comes back and tells them, Kajiro-san just told me, that lady is a Jorumo. She seduces handsome men like you two and does eki things to you before she eats you up, literally. She's a naughty yokai. Permission granted for putting her on time out. Who's Kajiro? Naruto asked, and this time, Kakashi picked up the phone. Sorry, Naruto, Sasuke, Kuna-sama is correct about your opponent, she's a Jorumo. Her way of luring victims is doing sexual favors in areas where she's free to do her way with you. By the way, Watanuki-san has a granddaughter whose age is as close to yours. Takako-san said Kajiro was looking for a job, so Kuna-sama hired her as our communications officer. Yasaka-san, how are you today? Sorry boys, looks like Yasaka-san is about to murder us. Try to follow up any leads about Turbo Granny after dealing with the Jorumo. Over and out. With that, the live stream was cut. The two of them then slowly turned their heads back to the Jorumo, killing intent leaking out the two former shinobi. This is the part where it's going to hurt you more than it does us, Jorumo-san. Maybe we should start with the legs. Naruto starts, his face showing a crooked grin, like he had just been given permission to do something terrible. Drop dead, was Sasuke's only reply as the shadow of the two shinobi looms over the Jorumo's figure. Her threads suddenly caught fire and burned. To ashes they became as it all slipped down to the ground. Now, it was obvious that both Naruto and Sasuke were looking like they were out for blood. And may I suggest a do-over and start with tea? Too late. It would be a few minutes later when a sudden cave-in on the tunnel occurred. One side of the mountain had a hole blown in it, and two teenagers were seen bullying a fully grown woman. A few hours later, the Jorumo lady was bawling her eyes out as Naruto and Sasuke dragged her bound at the torso and rope with her hands on her sides. Okay, so where do we go from here? Naruto asked as he kicked the hanging Jorumo on the tree while the rope was made into a makeshift pulley. Let's ask some of the shrines if they had exorcised her and the earthbound spirit here. Sasuke answered the blonde as he saw some shrines here that may have been responsible for exorcising them. The blonde then performed a shadow clone and have the Jorumo be delivered to Kyoto. It would be late afternoon that we're able to find the right shrine in the next city, Kamigo. When they finally arrived, Naruto and Sasuke went to the front door, and they could already hear a lot people yelling inside. Was there another exorcism going on in there? It was here that a pink-haired girl wearing a school uniform, probably around the same age as the two boys, stormed out of the house. She never noticed the two well-dressed teenagers hanging outside the doorstep as they were now wearing their sunglasses properly. As she walks away briskly, Naruto had to ask to no one in particular, what's with her? Who the hell are you guys? A redhead shouted from the door, and both Naruto and Sasuke turned to look at another cute girl that was screaming at them and looked pretty shady for her, to be honest. Oh well, we were just investigating what happened over at the tunnel in Shono City. Word got around that somebody got too close and messed with the curse. When we got there, the place felt empty, like there happened to be an exorcism. Naruto was the first to answer while Sasuke just nodded. It was here that a scrawny boy with glasses managed to poke out his head to look at two men well dressed in black suits and ties were standing outside as they wore a pair of shades. Oh shit, it's the feds. What are you blabbing about, you schmuck? Turbo Granny replied, and the spirit sealed inside the Maneki Nico peers her head towards the front door and saw boys with very strong spiritual energy talking with Momo. Turbo Granny had to lay low. There was no telling what these two boys were up to or what they were capable of. The depth of their spiritual power was unheard of. Not even other yokai possess such strength. You two stay here, it's bad enough that we get people poking their noses where they shouldn't belong. Seiko warned them as she got up and headed out to the front door as well. Well, we're not interested in what you're selling, ya hear me? Get! Momo shouted, all the while the two boys just pinched the bridge of their nose and made another live stream conference. You guys decent? A man with a face mask appeared on the screen and then shifted it back to a cute blonde girl with fox ears. Yes, we're clear here, and Ai-sama. Who the hell? Naruto immediately cut Momo off. She's the leader of our squad, believe it or not. Has all that charisma to sway you over to her side and make you feel like the absolute worst if you go against her. I don't care if she's the rabbit on the moon. I'm not entertaining anything from you freaks. Whoa, hostile much? Now you just made us more curious, lady. You hiding something over there? With those words, Sasuke began to look intimidating, sword just appearing from nothing in a cloud of smoke. Sharingan flaring to life and glowing from his sunglasses. Seiko quietly then appears from behind Momo and lights up another cigarette. Stand aside, brat. You clearly aren't trained to deal with these people. As soon as she said those words, Momo clicked her tongue. Ah, shut up, grandma, you ain't worth crap after siding with that delusional bitch. I'm dealing with them. She was just nice enough to tell me I was hot and young. Now, demon, set yourself aside and let me do the talking. Sasuke quietly powered down, and his Sharingan vanished from his eyes. You weren't seriously trying to maim these people, Sasuke? We're going to be in trouble if you do. Sasuke clicked his tongue and hid Kusanagi once more. This whole conversation was getting annoying. No violence until I say so, and Ai-sama. We're not savages. Naruto scratched the back of his head with an awkward smile. You know, I seriously am thinking about Kuna knowing how to speak like that. She sounds like an imperial court member. It was here that Seiko spoke, and? What do you two cherry boys want? Sasuke only grunted while Naruto had a smile that was twitching on his upper left lip. I don't know why, but that came to me like an insult. What's a cherry boy? Kuna asked through the phone and silence followed. Popping cherries? Kajiro-san, I don't get it. A beat. Hi, this is where we end that conversation. Kakashi had immediately butted in and grabbed the phone before any elaboration could be done. He would rather butt in now before Yasaka makes her wrath known again within the room. Explaining themselves again and acting like surveyors, Naruto let Kakashi continue the conversation from here on out to smooth things over. Seiko nodded and then pointed inside. Yeah, Turbo Granny's over there. Let me get her for ya. Want to meet her cursed victim? I promise you it'll be funny, he only has half of his testicles. Gee, Granny, why are you snitching on the feds? Momo asked and Seiko replied, because it's more trouble than it's worth to try and hide him from two Yamabushi. Let's get them inside and explain their situation. Once inside, they were now sitting by the dinner table and were now being served with somen. They were met with the boy with glasses fighting with an animated Maneki Nico doll who was cursing up a storm as she abused the boy. Get your hands off of me, you shithead! And there's Turbo Granny and her victim, Seiko announced dispassionately. Naruto and Sasuke looked down on the Maneki Nico as T. I thought she'd be more ghastly looking. Like the Pokemon? The spectacled boy asked and Naruto looked confused. What the fuck is a Pokemon? Nisama, I know you guys are new but you don't even know Pokemon. Will need to have remedial classes on our culture when you get back. Another beat. Nisama, we should start, you know what we came here for. Right. You're on timeout, Turbo Granny. Naruto then points his chopsticks to the Maneki Nico with a grin on his face, anticipating what came next. Sasuke was silent for a moment, and then sighs as he follows up. You've been a bad yokai. Turbo Granny, defiant and vulgar to the end, spoke up after stomping on the bespectacled boy. I'd like to see you punks do it. Yeah, I've been a bad yokai. So bad that I'll let you suck on my tits if you let me eat your penis. You done goofed there, hag. Oh, you are so dead it's not even funny. Turbo Granny. That was unmistakably Yasaka on the other end. Oh shit, that's the queen of the yokai. Turbo Granny was about to make a run for it but Momo had managed to block her way and picked her up by the neck. You aren't getting away from me, you old biddy. I think it's time we have a talk. Naruto, deciding to not get anywhere near whatever kind of tongue-lashing Turbo Granny was about to get, turned over to the bespectacled boy and asked, Hey there, kid. Sorry you were cursed by Turbo Granny over there, what was your name again? And is it true you only have half a nutsack? My name is Takakura-ken. I'm a high school student at Kami High. Yeah, I only have one of my balls with me right now. At the mention of Takakura-ken's name, Momo was suddenly on the floor squirming. Naruto found Takakura's name to be quite cool. There was something about the name that really sounded like the boy was a badass. What's with her? Naruto and Ken bonded over stories of his misadventures. He's seen Ken try and do reps to maximize Turbo Granny's speed and Naruto offered suggestions to focus not much on leg strength but endurance and stamina. Well, it's nice and all, but if you want to maximize your speed, you need to have stamina to sustain that speed, said the stamina freak. Well, yeah, but leg strength is for having a good snap for acceleration too, Ken remarked as he took on some notes for that. Naruto recommended jogging. Running on a mountain trail was a good idea of upping his stamina. Wait, I think I'm grasping at what you're trying to go for. Naruto said this in between slurps of somen. Ken raised an eyebrow as Naruto grinned. What you're aiming for is using your speed to deal a decisive blow in one go, right? The boy with glasses nodded at this fervently. Yes, that's it. With what little time I can squeeze out with school and training, I can't focus on multiple things at once. Akron then finally added, it's just that, I want to help out Ice-san as much as I can and not just rely on my speed, which is the only thing I have going for. And even then it feels like only a borrowed power. Naruto understood. What his new friend Ken was getting at was that other than that one thing, Ken felt like he was useless with everything else. From what he could glean on the bespectacled boy's exploits, it seemed like they had a good thing going of playing keep away with him, while Momo did everything else. He began thinking of ways to help the poor kid, and he remembered one of his closest friends. An image of a beast, a speed demon who crushed boulders with his bare hands, where a simple kick was shatter stone and which the speed of his fists caused the very air to ignite. Leaves swirled with every movement, the air hummed from every punch or kick that he could do. It multiplied then to 2, when he saw master and student perform their katas and train daily to maintain that physique. With Ken's dedication, Naruto could tell he could probably reach to some measurable heights as these two. Naruto smiled finally and spoke, alright, let's try a different approach. Instead of just leg strength, you need to train your arms too. The blonde then continued, I want to teach you how to punch. Sasuke looked on quietly, thinking of what thought process was Naruto going for. In a few short hours, they would be heading back to Kyoto. He could only give the boy a few tips, and it wouldn't make much of a difference. We'll be outside. Come on, Ken. I'm going to teach you how to deliver that punch. Naruto replied, and with the mention of Akurin's true name, Momo was on the floor again squirming. Seriously, what was up with her? Sasuke nodded and went back to his phone that was getting warmer with the amount of lectures that Yasaka was giving to Turbo Granny. He was surprised that an elderly yokai would even listen to the younger one who had considerable power. In his world, the elderly were stubborn fools who held on to traditions strictly. Either as a way of comfort for them or a sign of stability, many held traditional beliefs were often harmful for those looking to reform old ideas. As Naruto and Ken head outside, the blonde pointed to Ken's feet. Okay, first, you need to widen the space between your feet. You need to be well balanced when delivering a punch. As wide as your shoulders, because the closer you are to the ground, the more powerful you can deliver your punch. Naruto showed Akurin the position of his feet. He recalls Iruka teaching him properly in his younger years. It was an after-class lesson after getting his ass kicked by Sasuke back then. His teacher focusing on him because he didn't want Naruto falling behind. It was one of the earliest times he saw someone put care into his well-being. Akurin followed suit. That's good. Don't go beyond your shoulders, alright? You need to be balanced when delivering a punch because you'll easily be countered if you're out of it. Naruto then told Akurin to raise his hands and ball it into fists, with the thumb tucking in the middle and index fingers, and then added, good, now when delivering a punch, it's important to squeeze every bit of power into your fists, which means the furthest hand away from your target should be the one to deliver the blow. Naruto raises his right hand and shows Akurin the motion of throwing said punches. Pay attention, Ken, look at my foot to where it's aiming. Naruto showed how his forward foot was aiming towards the target, and then the blonde continued, next, look at my hips, the extra swing helps. And then, Naruto lets loose a full power punch from his right hand. Akurin could hear the air being cut as he sees Naruto punch. Also, when you punch, it's important to see how long your reach is, because you should know, if you can't hit your opponent then you're not going to be as effective. So the closer you are to your enemy, the stronger the force of your punches. Akurin was impressed as Naruto continued, combine that with your speed, practice it every day when you're free. When Naruto saw Akurin's determined face, he couldn't help but remember his friends. He remembered that resolve, that inner fire filled with conviction, to put your life on the line for what you wanted to protect. And his declaration that Ken would gladly become a monster if it meant protecting his friend, it all reminded him of the way shinobi lived, or perhaps, the way that they died, defining their lives for a cause that they deemed higher than them. It was here that Sasuke had finally appeared, phone in hand, and then said, they're letting Turbo Granny off the hook for now. She's currently harmless. We're heading back. But before they headed back, Sasuke glanced at Akurin and then sensed the boy's spiritual energy. Hey nerd. Look at me. Ken looked at the taciturn Uchiha who had activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. Ken's vision turned dark as he felt something pull him into somewhere. When Akurin blinked, he saw the color of his world change to red and black. A cold sweat escapes him. What in the world is this place? Ken looked around. He was still in the shrine. Except the colors were all red and black. He turned to the moon, it was pearl white. The reds outlined the blacks, it was like living in a negative film. How or what is it? This is merely an illusion, calm yourself. A thunderous voice escapes the air around him and Akaran looks around and sees Sasuke with his hands in his pockets. It seems like your spiritual powers has the same workings as chakra. That's good then, it means our techniques would be just as effective to yokai and curses. Sasuke then continued, that idiot taught you about physical strength. As a compensation for having to unwittingly participate in my experiment, I'll be ingraining in your mind the other aspect of chakra, spiritual energy. Akaran was suddenly bombarded with knowledge via Sasuke's Sharingan-induced hypnosis. Knowledge such as the 12-hand signs, the way of manipulating chakra, as well as control exercises, it all came to Ken in his mind, like still images slowly compiling and building. In the outside world, Akaran falls to his knees as the information invades his mind. He looked up and sees Sasuke standing before him. Train with that if you wish. Though I advise that you focus on control rather than projecting hand signs. If you do not know any jutsu, then you could mistakenly create a kinjutsu and could threaten your life. See ya, Ken. Let's meet again some other time. Naruto waved goodbye with a grin, while Sasuke grunted. In just a second, Naruto and Sasuke disappeared with only a blur. If he didn't know any better, Akaran would have thought these two were ninjas. The travel from Kamigo City, Saitama Prefecture to Kyoto was usually 3 hours by the Shinkansen, and the last train had already left just 5 minutes before. For any normal human, the best decision is to just stay at a small hotel and then come back the next morning. For two shinobi who didn't want to stay long at the area, they would just hitch a ride at a moving bullet train. So when two shinobi were seen riding the top of said bullet train heading back to Kyoto, another urban legend was born in Kawagoe City. Kyoto. It was about 8 in the evening when both of them had arrived. Just in time for dinner too, as Yasaka was expectantly waiting for them with the rest of the newly established squad. On the conference table now sat Kuna at the center, commander of Spank. To her right sat Kakashi, vice commander. To her left was her mother Yasaka. Chief executive officer sitting beside Kakashi was Hinata, admin third in command, and beside Yasaka was Sakura, logistics officer. A chair skips between Sakura and the new member in Spank, a half tanuki, half wolf yukai, sporting long black hair. A pair of triangular ears on her head, with her bangs combed to one side, black irises that had a shade of red in them, a heart-shaped face and thin lips, wearing a dress shirt covered by a black blazer, and an office skirt, clearly showing the office lady vibes, and a ribbon with a brooch at the base of her neck. Being the newest member, she was at the area where she was next to Kuna's Tea Party members. This was Kajiro, Spank's communications officer and blunt office worker that seemed to be on Yasaka's list of people who shouldn't be left alone with her daughter. To be fair, if Kakashi had shown his true self, he would be on the list as well. Sit down, Nisama. We have to celebrate the success of our first mission now. Kuna excitedly claimed. It was just one mission, but that one mission holds a 100% completion. That means a spotless record, even though they didn't do jack. Naruto sat beside Hinata while Sasuke sat beside Sakura as the servants had began serving dinner. We couldn't help it, we had to hitch a ride with the Shinkansen from Saitama to Kyoto. The travel time was 3 hours. The blonde replied as he sat down. The weight of the previous meal was already gone as they were served dinner. Sasuke then spoke. I also discovered something that could help us greatly in missions coming forward. Apparently, all basic branches of jutsu can be applied here, including genjutsu. Sakura placed a hand on her chin. In order for genjutsu to work, chakra must resonate with both users to connect and convey the illusion. The medium of which is not important. What's viable is that the other end responded when chakra sought a connection. Illusions? Do you mean to say that your way of performing illusions is to connect to one's spiritual energy, or yuki? Yasaka asked, interested in the methods that the shinobi work under. It seemed that their chakra functioned the same as their jujitsu. Naruto thought hard about this. The true purpose of chakra, before the appearance of ninjutsu, was to form a connection between people. Before ninjutsu, Rikuruji-chan said it was called Nishu. It's a form of communication that should have been a gateway to understanding until it was weaponized. Naruto looked at Sasuke, who seemed perturbed by that statement for a second and then quickly had to recompose himself. He didn't mean to open past wounds, but in this case, they had to compare notes. After all, it was Indra who had first weaponized Nishu and turned it to ninjutsu. Fascinating. So your chakra, it works as much as our yuki? Yasaka asked, and Kakashi answered. In some aspects, we can compare it to your yuki. But unlike yuki, chakra is a much more versatile energy source. Hinata then continued, in our line of work, chakra is the fuel for many of our jutsu. It is essential in taijutsu, ninjutsu and genjutsu, the three main branches in shinobi combat. Furthermore, it is also the basis for other branches such as fuinjutsu, iryo ninjutsu and senjutsu. You said senjutsu. Back at Shirakawa-dori, you said that you take in natural energy and it becomes part of your chakra. With it you can sense specific energies around you. In what we know, senjutsu here means to manipulate our life force and enhance our bodies by cultivating ki. There is a sense of harmonization with nature here, but to you, you do a much more active role, right? Yasaka asked Naruto and nodded. The idea of senjutsu is that I have to maintain a certain balance of my chakra and natural chakra in order to maintain sage mode. It does enhance my body, but it also gives me the ability to sense intent and enhance all my techniques by a matter of 3 times. If I can't maintain that balance, the natural chakra overwhelms me and I turn to stone. A different energy source, a different consequence of acquiring power. Whereas the failure of controlling senjutsu can lead to insanity in their home, Naruto's method of senjutsu would not even consider partiality as immediate death. Their conversation then steered to other topics, such as the capture of the Jorumo. It was here that Kakashi advised to never mention the prisoner. It would be ill-advised to have her be exposed as their only lead. Attempts of interrogation for the past 3 hours were unsuccessful. The need for unconventional methods had been brought up. For shinobi, especially those who worked under the intelligence division, this was the code word for torture. Kakashi, being a former ANBU captain, had learned a thing or two from Ibiki back then, and had 1 or twice did his fair share of extracting information by unconventional means. Once dinner was done, Naruto and the others had gone their separate ways as Hinata and Naruto finally began their walk towards his home. How was it? Being back in action? Hinata asked. Naruto looked up into the moon and replied, it was alright. Though nothing really happened and it was only that Jorumo that showed up. Met a new friend though. Eh? Then you have to tell me what he's like. Hinata replied with a smile as she walked beside the blonde. She had noticed it, even back then. That Naruto was happiest when he talked about making new friends. To him, this was his form of healing. Years of unresolved trauma only healed when people have someone they can talk to. Hinata had noted that the previous days had shown her that Naruto was slipping away. He was polite, relatively, but kept a distance. He seemed like he was looking for answers in all the wrong places. Get this, his name is like super famous in this country. He was named after a famous actor, Hinata, and he got cursed by a granny yukai. Poor guy, he looked a little weak, but he's got that do-or-die attitude in him. He'd die for his loved ones. He'll fight and willingly send himself to hell if it meant for his friends' lives. He's like us, Naruto said animatedly. Hinata notices Naruto's smiles. They've started to become genuine once more. Even for that single moment. It seems you found another comrade. Hinata said this, letting the moonlight reflect on their features. Hinata had noted that Naruto was finally starting to move on. Even if you lose people, even if there is a void that can't be filled, slowly, surely, a moment of happiness will eventually come, and more people will come and fill that loneliness once more. Hinata commented and Naruto grinned. It certainly seemed to be that way, new people to connect with, people who he would call comrades, friends. Hey, Hinata, have you tried carving their names now? Naruto's expression turned serious. But his eyes never left the full moon, knowing full well that whatever Hinata would express, it was for her to show to him if she wanted. No, every time I try, I cannot help but stop. It's as if that if I write their names, then it's final, that means accepting that they're not here anymore. But seeing you try, seeing you have the chance, I want to try too. Hinata asks Naruto, and the blonde, for a while, remains silent. Don't push yourself, Hinata. For me, I almost fell into a deep hole I couldn't get out of just forcing myself to do it. Naruto then turns back to Hinata and holds out his hand asking for her to hold it. It's always the first name to write that's the hardest. So don't force it, Hinata. But if you want, if you absolutely have to now, then I'll help you. Hinata slowly and gently reaches out to Naruto, and fingers intertwined. Hinata had felt that warmth once more. He did not want to seclude himself any longer. He needed to move on. He had to move on. He had to live now, for both his sake and for the sake of the people new and old that he had come to connect with. Yes, that was his vow now. To live his life unbound by duty, titles or fate. He will soar with his wings again, and this time, he shall take flight and pull everyone else with him. Ko City. Governor General Azazel sat down as he read the report from one of his subordinates. He had been skeptical of what Yasaka had said that the surge in power 2 months ago had been nothing more than a surge of a part of the dimensional gap. The dimensional gap rarely offsets power like that. It pained him to say it, but he had to investigate the anomaly without the consent of the Kyoto faction's leader. His subordinates were easily mistaken for Yukai as either a Yatagarasu or a Karasutengu. It was easier to have them monitor whatever affairs the Yukai faction were having. As he read the report, Azazel was scratching his head. A gigantic tree sprouting? Yasaka's kid being politically active? She has a death squad? What? Azazel was scratching his head again. Reading the report came in with more questions than answers. I can understand the Yukai faction's counselors acting like medieval Japan's court magistrates. Those guys are incompetent as get out, but they would actually have a child have the power to deploy a whole death squad? How? Why? Again, more questions than answers. To note, Kuna only had 2 known members in her so-called squad, both of which were not even identified. It seemed like whoever was behind the approval of such a squad have no records to get a hold of, hence, no public records were ever brought up. Now Azazel was starting to wonder if the Yukai Council weren't actually incompetent but incredibly duplicitous. No identities, no name, not even records of them. Did he underestimate them? Or did Yasaka finally had enough and just kick them out and replace them with actual, competent people who were skilled enough for counterintelligence operations enough to even fool his operatives? He could still remember Yasaka's political maneuvering from a few weeks ago. She had effectively blocked an internal investigation of what happened then. Citing sovereignty over their territory, the 3 factions had no choice but to comply or they lose some access to their territory in Japan. And with the present leadership on the 3 factions, they were unwilling to lose ground or lose entirely their territory on this country. But now, Yasaka is actively moving her pieces on board. What she was intending, Azazel was not sure. There were variables that he needed to seek out more. But that tree may be related to what it was that was happening in Kyoto. Azazel bit his thumb. I want to know, I want to know, I want to know. Would you stop your incessant whining? A voice cut Azazel off. The leader of the Grigori turned his head at the door to find a silver-haired man with his arms crossed and glaring at Azazel. Valley, you don't seem to understand. Something has reached the queen of the Yukai. Do you understand what that means? She might be bumping uglies with some rando. I'm so jealous right now. Vala was regretting talking to this idiot. The White Dragon Emperor takes a deep breath, counting backwards to 10 and replied, Look, do you want me to look into this? Azazel stopped for a moment and thought about it for a second and then shook his head, waving his hand to dismiss the idea. Nah, no way, Vala. It's like treating a small cut with a blowtorch. No offense, you're as graceful as a sack of hammers. Stealth isn't your game. Even if it was, you're not exactly subtle enough. I'm going to ignore all of that, and just say you're a fucking. Vala replied, looking annoyed at Azazel's dispassionate expression. Your first exit strategy will be to punch your way through. It most certainly won't be. He most certainly will. Well, not you, maybe someone else in your group can do it. Vala seemed to consider this. Who do you have in mind? Kyoto, undisclosed area. Kakashi was now at their new interrogation room, a place Kakashi had constructed with a few Doton jutsu. Unfortunate, though, that it was under Sasuke's home that they had to do it on. For one, Sakura also lived there, and 2, the neighbors weren't going to like that their plumbing had shifted too. It was fine, Kakashi thought, they didn't know nor will he admit to any of it. Kakashi sat down in front of the Jorugumo and looked at his side, seeing a 24-inch HD TV monitor and the tide of Jorugumo in front of him. You're not one to talk, are you? Kakashi asked, and the woman didn't even dignify that with a response. That's fine, we have ways to make people talk. Kakashi then shifted from his seat. The Jorugumo flinched when Kakashi had immediately revealed a bento box. You bastard, you knew I hadn't been eating for 3 days. You're one hell of a sadistic. The Jorugumo finally spoke, glaring daggers at Kakashi, who replied with a smile. You give me too little credit, madam. This isn't how I'm going to get my answers from you. Kakashi chuckled, as he opens the bento and starts eating. To the Jorugumo, who had admitted outright that she hadn't eaten for days. Kakashi recalled the bell test when his method of mocking was eating food in front of a hungry genin. Ah, those were the days. You. If you think this is going to make me talk, the Jorugumo was on the verge of tears now. This man was scum, no, worse than scum. Where she would not prolong the suffering of her victims, this man, no, monster, would take delight in playing with his prey, doing all sorts of unspeakable things before he ended things. I'm more than prepared. My mind and my body, you can do as you wish. But you will never have my heart. What's with that? Don't you think you've gotten it wrong how this goes, Jorugumo-san? Kakashi asked as he took a bite of his tamago and commented how delicious it was, causing the said Jorugumo to salivate. Her stomach hungers for sustenance. I won't talk, she mumbled as she watches Kakashi eat a meatball from the bento. Now that she thought about it, how did he eat with his mask on? You're wondering how I can eat with a mask on, right? Kakashi asked after chewing his food and swallowing it. He always did get those questions from everyone else. Years of hiding my face from fangirls can make you grow skills you've never heard of. Shut your evil mouth, scum! Kakashi just took a sigh and closed his bento. Here I was just trying to start a conversation, Kakashi said so regrettably as he just grabbed the side of the television and faced it at the yukai. Oh, what am I to do? My friend refuses to cooperate. I would have offered her my bento if I could, Kakashi declares in fake anguish. It was here that Sasuke appeared with headphones in hand. I got what you wanted. You want me to place it on her ears? What are you going to do? The Jorumo asked, shivering as Sasuke placed the headphones in her ears and hooked it on the monitor and adjusted the volume. Oh, we're not going to hurt you physically anyway, Kakashi mentioned, then once chuckled for the cruel, ironic and possibly funny punishment that he has ever devised. It only took Kakashi a few days to be familiar with the world's cultural zeitgeist. He observed people, watched their preferences, looked up trends and even tried a hand to a new communication method that this world was familiar with, the internet. And the treasure trove of information has never been more unbound into Kakashi than this. So, when he thought up of strange ways to make people talk without ever laying a hand on them, Kakashi had stumbled across a little-known site called BooTube, and it came to his mind quick. Kakashi on his own is a deadly factor. The man had went on missions sometimes too suicidal for other mortal men, and he would accomplish them without fanfare. A man who walked through the earth leaving a trail of death and despair. A man who could run through hell and come back with the head of his target. A man who had copied over 1,000 jutsu. That was Kakashi, deadly, professional, and unabashedly good at his job. But give Kakashi access to the internet? He'll be a menace. We're going to make you watch mukbang ASMR videos for 24 hours straight. And the content creator that we'll watch is Nikocado Avocado. It was there that the Yukai knew that she was in her personal hell. Outskirts of Kyoto. It had been a week since the deployment to Shono City, and Naruto was back at the makeshift gravesite/memorial that he made in the forest of Kyoto. Naruto watched as Hinata tries to carve the first name that came to her mind. Hinata looks at the names that Naruto has finally carved into the smooth stone surface. It started with their teacher, Yumino Irika, and continued on from there. There were more names that she could recall: Gaara, Naruto's friend who he had reached out for, understanding his pain as a fellow Jinchuriki. Their classmates Kiba, Shikamaru, Chuji, Shino, Jiraiya-sama, Tsunade-sama, Lee, Tenten, Gai-sensei, and even Asuma-sensei. Hinata touched the stone and she could feel the solemnity of Naruto's feelings through them: sadness, anguish, guilt. If Naruto hadn't saved her in time, she knew that she would have ended up the same. If that were the case, would Naruto have mourned longer? Would he have moved on? Hinata slowly shook her head. No more what-ifs. Those what-ifs were the reasons for her indecision back then. It was her hesitation, and hesitation was what led her to act late. She promised herself, even against pain, that she would throw that hesitation away. Even if she survived out of luck, then that means she must continue living on for herself and for those who were left behind. She closed her eyes and once more felt the warmth of Naruto's hands on her own. I forgot that you don't know how to mold wind chakra yet, huh? I'll take care of it. Just guide my hands as you write their names, Naruto said, his voice set in a whisper as he held Hinata's hand. A gentle surge of his chakra soon followed. The kunai glows an ethereal blue, then straightens, matching the outline of the blade. Hinata hadn't forgotten this gentle warmth that Naruto exuded. How could she? These were the hands that held hers during the war. It gave her comfort, it gave her strength. Like she could face down 1,000 and then 1,000 more without ever tiring. Hands that held on to everything that fell to it for dear life, those same hands that grew up with nothing and then found them all, only for all to be taken away. Knowing all that, and knowing how it felt, Hinata could not help but to let the tears flow. Fate was cruel. Cruel to them all, with no mercy, it took everything away. Their home, their family, their friends, their dreams, everything, and only left them memories to go by. Wani-sama. She hears her little sister's voice as she finally starts to write the first name that she could not carve before. Hyuga Hanabi. Then she writes another. Hinata-sama, you have grown strong. Hyuga Niji. Then another. I've never been more proud of my student. Neither Hayashi-sama nor the others can take away your hard work. Yuhi Kurinai. As she continues to write the names of those Hinata lost dearly, Naruto holds onto her hand as she guides it to write the names. Behind them, Yasaka, who wanted to visit them and to check on their prisoner, stood behind solemnly, her daughter with her. Mom. Yasaka looked down to her daughter. What is it, Kuna? Naruto and I-sama, Sasuke and I-sama, Hinata-ne-sama, Sakura-ne-sama and Kakashi-sensei, they're humans, right? Even though they came from a different place. Kuna's expression remains neutral, no smiles, no excitement. She was looking at Hinata and Naruto as they carved out names once more to the stone, a makeshift grave for people that they've lost. Yes, they are, Kuna. But what are you getting at? Kuna looks downcast, so her ears and tails droop to the ground. It's just so sad, their lives are so short, share love that will not last, and then disappear forever just as fast. It feels like they never had a chance for happiness. Kuna then holds her chest. Is it wrong of me to feel like this, Mom? Yasaka looks on, understanding what Kuna was saying, and leans down to her daughter. No, Kuna, what you feel is perfectly normal. It means your heart understands suffering and pain. Never let that go. Humans, who live a shorter lifespan, understand that time is short for them, therefore, their love burns brighter than most. At least, some of them do. 80 years for a human is a long enough time for them to understand that. It's not enough for me, Mom. Yasaka looked on curiously to her daughter. Why do you say that? Because if we experience the same pain, the same suffering, it takes us a long time to heal. Time that could be spent smiling, having fun and playing. Yasaka could not help but smile to her daughter's logic. You're right. When we have happiness, time feels too short. We can't let go. But that's what makes time precious to humans. Those happy moments remain in their minds. No matter how bitter life gets for them, a small time of happiness can move mountains for them. Kuna begins to understand, if time is short for humans, then they should live not based on the quantity of time, but the quality of their lives. Kuna understands, but all the same, she rejects that truth. As she and her mother decide to not bother Naruto and Hinata's vulnerable moment, Kuna thought just to herself. I will just break that curse. Kuna tells herself, this was her promise to her subordinates. After all, a boss is supposed to care for her people. Logistics officer Haruno Sakura previously had a job working as a helper nurse at a small clinic. It gave her the time to help keep her mind busy while trying her hardest to cope for what happened in the past few weeks she was here. She had lost her world, her parents among them, even friends and peers. Her loss, now only processing, finally she understood what Naruto and Sasuke had went through. She thinks this as she takes her day off in a small cafe drinking tea and reading a book on pharmacology she nabbed from Kyoto University's Faculty of Medicine. Losing one's parents really is painful. If Sakura could take those words back then when she thought of himself as lucky for having no parents, she definitely would. In a world where tragedy is often the story and not the exception, she was one of the lucky few who did not have the burden of power entrusted to her or the duty of retribution as a child. But above all else, Sakura saw the despair in Sasuke's eyes. He had long since lost hope. In an effort to grab something tangible, he deemed it worthy to pass judgment on people who were willing to change the system, and this was the result of his arrogance. His wrath had turned ruin them all. Now he lives like a recluse, refusing to interact with anybody else. He had slowly started to come out of his shell, living for atonement, punishing himself for his rightfully sinful actions. This was self-loathing. Sakura couldn't help but think, if she had done the same, she would probably be in the same boat as Sasuke right now. Perhaps, along the way in his journey, Sasuke saw no other way. Long before Kaguya, Sasuke may have already sunk in despair. Sakura-san, I appreciate you inviting me out to tea. But we can't start a conversation when your head is literally occupied by that book. Sakura immediately stopped and looked embarrassed. She had invited out Kajiro earlier to spend time with. She didn't want to stay in the house for long, she wanted to have a moment of solace on her own, while she still deals with her grief. That, and she found something rather interesting. Sorry, I just had to distract myself. I wanted to ask some questions regarding our discussion last night. Kajiro raised an eyebrow at this. Sakura continued, Yasaka-san said that senjutsu here means manipulating your life force from cultivating ki. From my understanding, that means manipulating the inner energy we have, right? In this case, chakra is that inner energy that I have. Kajiro looked up and scratched her head. Well, that's the gist of senjutsu there, Sakura-san. Few yukai ever attain the ability to use both senjutsu and yujitsu. Mostly because we rely on yujitsu more. There are different yukai species who can do both, like the Nikomata and the Kitsune. The Tanuki prefer to use Yujitsu as they prefer to resolve conflicts with illusions, while there are yukai like the Ukami, and the Oni who prefer senjutsu. Me being part Tanuki and part Ukami, can do both. And honestly, the ability to do both is a much more beneficial thing to do. Last night when you were all explaining the shinobi way of fighting, I couldn't help but agree with your logic. You must have something to fall back on when your first choice becomes limited. Sakura then asked, but what is ki? Kajiro answered her directly. In terms of answering that question, my only reply is that ki is life energy. Understanding that flow is key to manipulating ki, hence senjutsu. If it's life energy, then Sakura cupped her chin as she thought about it for a second. In chakra, there were two types of energy that were components for it: physical and spiritual energy. Physical energy involved training the body, the muscles, bones, everything. The body's own fuel wasn't necessarily proteins, sugars, and fats. But they were building blocks for the actual fuel, adenosine triphosphates. While it is said that spiritual energy relates to energy of the mind, which comes from studying, meditation, and experience. Are you interested in applying senjutsu for yourself, Sakura-san? Kajiro asked as she drank her tea. She sighs as she looks outside, glad that she had her day off like the rest of the team. Sakura nods quietly as she continues. To keep my mind busy. My job as logistics officer is merely to maintain supplies, inventory checks, and well-being. I'm not just a medic, I'm a fully capable combat medic. And from the last fight I was in, I could only do a hit-in while Naruto and Sasuke did all the work. In a way, I feel a little left out. I was thinking of learning the 8 gates. But then when Yasaka Dano said senjutsu, it's like something clicked in me. Now I'm interested. Kajiro grins, then let's train for today, I know just the place. Naruto sees Hinata finish her part of the memorial. Her tears had calmed down and the blonde asked, are you good, now? Hinata replied, I will be. To this, Naruto grabbed another makeshift rod from his scroll and handed one to her. Let's go fishing, it always calms me down these days. I used to water plants as a way to calm down, but I can't have a garden at home, too small and the light from the sun won't reach the house because the windows aren't aligned. Hinata nodded. For me, it used to be flower pressing. These days, it's cooking. I think we can make a garden. Not in the house, though. Hinata then points to the makeshift monument. How about around here? Instead of offering flowers, why not make a garden here? That way, we can save money for flowers and just maintain it here? Naruto grins, a small one. I think that would be great. I'm sure Iruka-sensei would appreciate a garden of flowers rather than a bouquet. Excited at the idea, Naruto could picture it in his mind, a garden of flowers littering the area. As they began walking to the nearby lake, Naruto shifted the topic. Now, I've been thinking. Hinata looked at the blonde. We've been pretty lax now because we're just following Kuna's whims. But when that Jorumo lady thought that she could jump us, we had to reveal some of our skills. I'm pretty sure if we were being set up, people would be having eyes and ears about what we can do. Hinata nodded and replied, yes, they would have to gather information on all of us with every mission that we will be sent to. If that's the case, we'll have to train and use a cover and use our jutsu as a surprise. Naruto answered as he looked forward. Hinata's gaze lingered to him for a few short seconds, realizing that Naruto was growing up fast, and she smiles. When Sasuke and I traveled for a couple of weeks, we went around gathering seeds and other stuff we found useful. Naruto then held up a scroll in his hands, and it were the trinkets he found around the world in their quest for the chakra seeds for the pseudo-divine tree. I can't take away the fact that our enemies may now know that I can use a different kind of senjutsu. I just have to build a wall high enough that they can't get past it, and push me to use Sage Mode. And Naruto knew what he was going for. I want Sasuke, Sakura-chan and Kakashi-sensei in on it too. Of course, you have to be part of it too, Hinata. They don't know about your Byakugan and what it does or what your true taijutsu style is. That's an advantage for us. They'll never know what hit them. Naruto grins with his plan and Hinata chuckles and says, when you apply yourself, Naruto-kun, I think your schemes can be just as compelling as Shikamaru's were. Naruto's grin widens. You think so? I want to honor everyone as much as I can. I think you've already honored Iruka-sensei with your friend in Kamigo's city. Ken-san, was it? Naruto laughs awkwardly and scratches the back of his head. I'd done him a solid if Ken applies what I thought him easily. In Kawagoe City, a group of aliens had managed to distort the space of the inn and around the school. Akaran notices the floor with water slowly rising to his feet. Those damn aliens stripped him down to nothing and he only managed to escape due to Era's help. Now they were being held down by the Serpoians with their telekinetic powers as the ground caves in from the sheer pressure of their powers. Even with Turbo Granny's speed, he couldn't move fast enough to avoid the telekinetic pressure weighing him down to the floor. There was a sudden release of that telekinetic field as Momo finally arrives just behind him. Momo-chan, oh, I've missed you so much. Akaran spoke. His possession of Granny's powers also affected the way he spoke. Shut up, you little perv. Aira then stands up, her face covered with the grotesque mask of what was supposed to be acrobat Silky. Her hair elongates and Momo looks surprised. What the hey, aren't you that Silky bitch? Aira merely replies, the fact that I was saved by you vexes me to no end. No bother, try to maintain that with your devilish powers while we deal with these fools. This does not mean that I will let you have Takakura Kensama. A ricochet to the heart, and Momo forgets to maintain her own telekinesis. Aira and Akaran goes down to the floor again. Ai-san, please maintain your powers. Bitch, I told you to keep doing what you're doing. Pay attention, damn it. T then stop acting like total dumbass. One of the Serpoians manages to break away just as Momo manages to restore their footing. It was here that Akaran made his move. It was not an all-out attack that Momo was used to this time, it was paced. Quickly closing the distance, Momo was quick to notice that Akaran already had a fist chambered back. His right arm, furthest from his target, shook, but Akaran steadied his hand. He immediately stopped when he got into range and stomped his right foot forward, gathering energy from the floor. He transfers that energy to his hips, and then to right fist, taking in as much oxygen as he could, empowering his cells, his muscles and his bones to their strongest state, steam wafting from his mouth as he gritted his teeth and lets out a textbook perfect straight punch that hits the breakaway Serpoian right in the chest, smashing the Serpoian to the wall and nailing him there. The little human just managed to destroy one of ours. Get the gig worker. That human's banana anatomy should be our first priority. Why does everyone seem to want my junk? Akaran managed to reposition himself as he hopped back with Momo and Aira. That's one down. 2 more. Hold it, Akaran, don't tell me you were learning how to throw a punch like what that guy said. Momo shouted and Akaran, quite simply, nodded. It was a tip that Naruto-san left me. I tried it on a sandbag. It hurt more than I thought, so I've been training to hit that sandbag and adjusting my stance and everything. He had also been training with his stamina and so far, it was helping. Knowing how to punch, knowing how to run, it all helped him little by little. Dude, that was amazing. Momo said this, seeing the little improvements that Akaran had been getting. Okay, perhaps those two weren't as sketchy as she had thought. She just hopes that if ever she gets to contact them again, she'll also ask for help and let them train her too. Kawasaki City, Kanagawa Prefecture. Naruto and Sasuke were once again deployed for a new mission. Investigate peculiar deaths of people who were disfigured. Initially, by disfigurement, Naruto thought of the victims were getting hacked. What he saw disturbed him. People lay on the ground, eyes bulging out of their sockets, like horrific tumor infestations, faces bulging out of their skulls, even arms and legs either shrinking or growing grotesquely. The disturbing photo given to them seemed to have caught the attention of one of Yasaka's representatives and reported back to her. Yasaka personally handed the letter to Kakashi and did not report this to Kuna. This mission was way too disturbing for a child like her. The implication of the representative seemed to due to fear of their kind being hunted down by sorcerers. Naruto understood that there was a certain complexity when it came to interspecies relations. In his world, humans managed to live in harmony with other sentient life forms through contracts. It helped maintain some form of order to them and there were very few incidents of predation in between them. But this one had traditions, possibly poor relations due to not only fear, but some yokai were known to prey on humans. These days, the yokai have learned to eat and even enjoy human food. Hence, the decrease of attacks of and on yokai as they would rather keep a low profile for them to enjoy human creations and the humans had significantly outnumbered them by several factors. Adding to that, humanity has created weapons that they themselves could cause a high amount of devastation, then other species had tried to lessen their aggression. Or else face a threat that could lead to extinction. So in order to keep the peace, the yokai decided to keep a low profile and live on as mere urban myths. Such a decision caused immense impact in their society. Forced into hiding, many of these yokai that did not live in Kyoto were left to their own devices with some opting to keep what they were supposed to be and occasionally cursed and consumed humans. To Naruto, he could finally see the lamentable state of the yokai. To live in fear or to die for bearing the sins of others who victimized other people. It was a very sobering thought. It was the Uchiha conspiracy all over again but scaled up to an entire country. There's something going on in a nearby batting area, we're heading over there. Sasuke replied blankly. Sasuke, we haven't spoke much after we got this job, but I want to ask, does this place somehow remind you of life back home? Silence existed between the two as both jumped from rooftop to rooftop. Naruto remained silent as Sasuke mulled over his thoughts. I have long since accepted that I have no place in our old home. Konoha took it away from me, no matter how many times you tell me that I have a place in it. But if I have to compare it to our life back then, I would have to say that it does sound the same. Sasuke refuted. He didn't want to linger with the past any more than he should have. Naruto understood that, finally understanding Sasuke's pain. I talked about bringing you back was the best idea I've had. Not considering what you felt. There's no way you would have returned after learning what you learned then. But I won't take back the fact that I would have still tried to stop you from causing more pain. Naruto declared to Sasuke. There was an epiphany of where Naruto stood. What he desired was that all people who had been hurt come together and speak. Dialogue is a back and forth process, people will come to an impasse. But it didn't mean that a bridge cannot be formed in between them. It took them an omnicidal deity for them to stand in cooperation with one another. Maybe that cooperation wouldn't last for long, but the possibility was there. Idealistic as it is, but to Naruto, his idea of peace through understanding and enduring had merit. I would have still decided to change the world the way I wanted to see it. You didn't have to carry that burden, Sasuke. There are people who would try and talk you out of creating another era of conflict. People can change, you just have to give them that chance. Naruto answered back, but then looked down. At least, you were supposed to. You didn't have to create and carry that pain. Seeing you shoulder everything to find that answer, you suffered. And when we saw you suffer for the choices and circumstances placed on your shoulders, Sakura, Kakashi-sensei and I, well, we felt that pain. But I suppose it's not your burden anymore. Finally landing on the rooftop of a nearby abandoned building, Naruto saw a multitude of strange creatures seeping out of the windows and into the streets. Sasuke drew his sword as Naruto's arms glowed yellow. A pair of golden gauntlets appeared that covered the sleeves of his uniform up to his elbows and jumped down. When Naruto landed, he immediately punches a ghoul-looking creature right at the chest as the sheer force of his punch shatters the creature's chest with a fist-sized hole. The creature screamed in agony before it falls to the ground dead. Sasuke, meanwhile, swung Kusanagi as he dropped down, cutting one of the creatures down but not dispelling it. The creature recovered and regenerated the clean cut before it went back and wailed on him. Sasuke, without even activating his Sharingan, ducked and weaved forward, narrowly avoiding a fist that would have hit his face, and the Uchiha closed in, this time, applying chakra to his sword and lightning sparked as he cleaved the unknown creature in two. Sasuke took note that these creatures reacted with chakra. For how it was possible? He didn't know. But it was worth looking into. He weaves through another series of punches and Sasuke severs the creature in two. Naruto held his fists up near his face as he ducked and delivered a fist straight to the chest as the blow destroys the creature's chest just like before. In front of Naruto, all that are hit by his fist shatters into dust. He ducks from another attack. Naruto steps forward and accelerates, and chambers his right fist back and smashes it on the creature's face. Not even blood remained as the creature shattered and collapsed into non-existence with that punch. Sasuke quietly looks at the blonde, Sharingan activated, and sees the flow of chakra disrupt the flow of energy inside the creatures and envelop it before snuffing it out, removing the creature's energy source. Applying the same principle but this time with his sword, the lightning pierces through the energy inside and the creature dissolves quickly. Chakra works like water, dousing the energy inside like fire. It doesn't matter if the chakra is converted elementally, it acts like a neutralizing effect on this energy. Sasuke analyzed, cutting down another creature as he then takes a step forward, thinking of performing a jutsu to see if it has any effect. His thoughts were cut off when their phone rings. Sasuke quickly steps back after cutting down another creature and answered the call. What is it? We're busy at the moment. Sasuke twisted around, his Sharingan blazing in cold fury as he cuts down another creature while Naruto started moving faster. One punch evolved as he delivers a strong attack to one creature that caused a shockwave and shatters windows around him before the creature was throttled from the face to the spine as it contorted and the force of the punch tunneled into the creature's body and killing the creatures behind it due to the sheer force of the attack. Sasuke-san? It's Kajiro. There's something you and Naruto-san need to know. There's a report coming from Yasaka-sama's agents about the attacks. They have a picture of one of the attackers. We're sending an image later. But we believe these aren't yokai. These are cursed spirits. Creatures born from negative emotions of humans. Normally, they can't be seen by people with little spiritual awareness. But these curses normally do not cause much problems until they coalesce and create a creature that far exceeds what it can initially do. These curses pose as a threat to yokai, not just because we can be used as a scapegoat, but also because these cursed spirits are violent enough to cause mass destruction. By your report, this means the yokai usually have encounters with these curses. Sasuke replied. Kajiro replied to the phone. Yes, we usually let jujitsu sorcerers handle rampaging curses. But once in a while, we participate in exorcism hunts due to how dangerous they can get. Organized hunts are mostly directed under Kyoto's Jujitsu Society. I was part of some hunter groups as well as a gig worker. These curses usually cannot be beaten with physical attacks alone. In our case, we require jujitsu to deal damage. In case of jujitsu sorcerers, they perform exorcism by using cursed energy to power their techniques. In sorcerer terms, they call it jutsushiki, cursed techniques. As Kajiro begins explaining, Naruto appears from above and lands on a gigantic white creature, cratering the ground below. Naruto, noticing that it wasn't doing any damage, deals with it by punching it to the ground, cratering the ground further, scattering skin, muscle, bone and organs in a gory display of giblets as chakra envelopes the cursed energy. Another sound of windows shattering could be heard, and Naruto looks around to see a pink-haired high school boy blast a cursed spirit the same way Naruto did. Both Sasuke and Naruto saw the pink-haired boy apply his energy to his fist, landing the punch, and notice a delay in the attack before the energy burst to the other side with the curse as it went down. Once he stood up, Naruto and Sasuke both noticed that the boy was wearing a uniform over his red hoodie and a matching pair of basketball shoes. He seemed curious to see the two shinobi fight off curses like they were nothing. Huh? Who are you guys? Are you guys jujitsu sorcerers too? The pink-haired one asked. Naruto shrugged and Sasuke shook his head. We came here to investigate about the disfigured deaths happening here in Kawasaki. Our boss wants it looked into because someone was too afraid of what might happen. Naruto replied as his bracers disappeared from his hands. Sasuke flicked Kusanagi before putting it in its steel scabbard. What did you see inside? Sasuke turned to the pink-haired boy and asked. The boy simply looked awkward and answered as best as he could. I was being evaluated by Nanamine on first-hand combat experience against these curses. We never expected them to be as numerous as we believed them to be. So this place is just swarming with these curses in the city. Naruto trailed on as he put his hand behind his head. Itadori Yuji. A voice called out to the pink-haired youth. The boy being called out turned to a man in a white suit and a pair of shades walked outside, a visible eyebrow raised at the two similarly wearing boys in front of him, along with a pair of sunglasses that covered their eyes. Who are you people? The man asked, his guard up and on edge. He had never seen these people before, and they made quick work of curses with one blow each. Not even with joint operations with the Kyoto branch had he seen these two. New members? No, that wouldn't be possible. By their relaxed and calm stance against the cursed spirits, these two moved like seasoned veterans, perhaps even better than most Class 1 rated sorcerers. Oh hey, Nanamine. Don't these guys look like you? With the suit and all? Yuji grins and the man simply scoffed at. They may wear the suit and look like they were dressed for the job, but one look at them told him they were at Itadori's age. It was why he was on guard. They weren't part of any jujitsu school as far as he knows, which makes their motives unknown. As the two introduced themselves, Nanami Kento kept his guard up. These two did not reveal who they were working for, only that they were there to look into the grotesque curses that were popping up and something about disfigured deaths. He was about to question them with what they know when one of the curses flinched and stood up. It was the cursed spirit that Yuji had put down. Yuji was about to finish the job when Nanami held him back. I'll be finishing this curse. We'll have to talk some other time concerning this. Yuji, I suggest heading back for now. We'll meet up tomorrow and discuss my findings with you concerning this matter. They watched as Nanami had finished off the cursed spirit, and then taking the body and informed Yuji about taking it to Shuko. He's one serious dude, huh? Naruto commented as Yuji nodded. Yeah, but when he works, he's a badass. His curse technique is pretty badass too, but he's such a wet blanket at times. Yuji replied and snickered. The three of them began to walk as Naruto suggested a family restaurant to compare notes. I've been meaning to ask there, Yuji. Can you show us how you manipulate your curse energy? Naruto asked, curiously, and Yuji nodded as he applied curse energy to his fist. Blue energy started lighting up from Yuji's fists, and Sasuke looked quite curious at it. The flow of the energy resembled like fire, but it was less volatile and destructive. As both Naruto and Sasuke observed, Yuji then told them, this is cursed energy. It's usually used as fuel for curse techniques. Gojo-sensei told me that my body is far too fast for my cursed energy to move in sync with me. There's a lag in manifestation and hitting my target that there's a double action effect on my punches. We called it Keiki-ken, divergent fist. Did you try anything else with that energy? Naruto asked, looking interested in Yuji's explanation. What do you mean by anything else? Yuji asked, and Sasuke replied, he means have you tried to apply your cursed energy differently? I tried recreating a move I saw in a manga once. It was Yusuke's ray gun if you guys are wondering, Yuji said, quite embarrassed, but Naruto and Sasuke looked more confused rather than understanding him. Ever tried making it spin in a single point? Naruto asked, then used a simple chakra control exercise, molding his chakra to his hands and then spinning it on one side. Yuji looked interested. What is that supposed to do? Sasuke asked, and Naruto grinned. I was thinking it could help with actually punching through against cursed spirits, and shred through their skin. Like that Nukite technique you saw once? Sasuke asked again, and Naruto nodded. Yuji's gears were spinning, like a drill? Naruto nodded, exactly like a drill. Now Yuji was onto something. His cursed energy manipulation had a lag to manifest an impact, which means having a wind-up period would actually increase his power and deliver an immediate impact on his target. Yuji's eyes shined in excitement. I never thought of that. I need to practice when I get back. Spiraling cursed energy at a single point, and then driving that much force and acting like a drill, Yuji could only think about one show he watched that he almost forgot. A man who would use his drill to pierce the heavens. After their meal and separating from Yuji, Naruto and Sasuke began scouring the town once again. That Yuji is a good guy. He seemed pretty chill. Sasuke agreed with Naruto. However, it's not something that suits him. The job looks like you need a pretty tough stomach to see things like what we've seen. Sometimes, people who are in that line of work need someone like Yuji, Naruto replied. It's quite a contrast. I sensed a lot of negative emotions coming from him. A lot of hatred and condescension. Butic feels like a separate entity, like between us. Naruto was soon taken inside his mindscape. Kurama? In the flesh and awake, kid. Kurama paused and scanned Naruto's memories. What have you gotten yourself into? I have a job currently. It helps with the distraction. And how do you find it? Being in this world, I mean. Can't say I'm happy about it. The dream that I pursued is gone along with all of them. I want to ask you if you can still connect with the other Biju. I want to try talking with them. I'll see what I can do. But you are freed from that obligation, right? Sometimes I think that you should just go ahead and be happy, none of that Hokage stuff anymore. Just you, finding your own peace. You're right about that, Kurama. But that obligation came with people I cared for. I cared for them because they gave me a path with hope. They gave my life color. You understand, right? I do, but I'm an immortal Biju. Connections come and go for me. Maybe I'll miss them, maybe I'll forget about them. But they wouldn't want me to keep being whatever it is you are being right now. It takes time to heal, Kurama. With that, Naruto cut off Kurama for now as he thinks what Kurama has said. He's moving on, he's trying. Every day is a battle trying to see things through, trying whatever he needed to look for a different purpose. Right now, he was just going with the flow, drifting along in a river with no proper destination, with no goal in sight. Back when he set his mind to it, he gave it everything he had. He was willing to bet his life into it, and risked everything just to fulfill his dream. Now that it wasn't viable anymore, what goals should he aim for? At night time, Naruto and Sasuke agreed to take shifts and do night patrols. There was a higher chance that whatever has been victimizing the people here would find more victims at night. So at first watch, Naruto would be the one patrolling. His Sage Mode would be able to detect ill intent from Afitar. Naruto, under Sage Mode, expanded his senses. The mere presence of his power seemed to surge throughout the town. To the spiritually unaware, Naruto's presence feels like a chill wind sweeping the entire town. But to the spiritually aware, the surge of power sends a message. I am here. If you do not value your lives, then come. As Naruto projects his strength with Sage Mode, Kurama had managed to open up another dialogue with the blonde. The Biju are free, they are currently discussing what to do with the Shinju. It won't dispel without you and Sasuke around. I've reported to them your status. They've seemed to agree to talk to you and ask you about something. Naruto's vision changed from Kurama's chambers now at the sacred meeting point of the Biju. In it, Naruto sees all the Biju surrounding the swirling symbol by the middle. Previously, that was where the Rikudo Sennin stood. Now, Naruto stands there as the man that would bring everyone together. Naruto, it's good to see you. It's been a while since we gave our chakra to you. Gyuki started, looking at everyone in this sacred hall not in a rush anymore. I wanted to ask how you were over there. I don't have the luxury of seeking you out myself as the circumstances how I got here are still difficult to understand. It was here that Matatabi, the two-tailed fire cat, spoke. Naruto, the Shinju has consumed all humans. There is nothing left that we can do. Everyone inside has probably turned into Zetsu. There is nothing anymore in this world that is living except for us. We've decided to come to you and give you our power to exist there. Wait a minute, what? Naruto, we Biju are not inherently physical, we are made of pure chakra with sentience. Unlike the physical, chakra exists in all planes of existence, it crosses boundaries beyond space-time. If you have some part of our chakra, it means we can trace that chakra back and become part of you. Son Goku, the four-tailed monkey, said this to a surprised Naruto. We'd be glad for you to be our vessel. You've changed the heart of our brother. That alone convinces us that father was right about you. Saiken, the seven-tailed Namakuji, followed. Besides, I'd bet it'd be fun with you rather than staying in this dead world. Chomei, the seven-tailed horned beetle, continued. Being left behind here is kind of boring. Koko, the five-tailed Irakuma, said. The risk of being exploited is there, but at least I would have someone to talk to. Isabu, the three-tailed turtle, admitted. Everyone looked at Shikaku, expecting for him to have something to say, and the one-tailed Tanuki shrugged. Fine, I guess being friends with a human isn't as bad as I thought. Naruto paused for a moment, digesting the words of the tailed beast. Naruto accepted them with open arms. Everyone, I'll welcome you here, so be prepared. With that, Naruto had stepped out of the sacred gathering hall and talked to his partner. Anything on your mind? Naruto simply shook his head as he asked the giant fox, how long do you think will that transfer take place? Kurama simply shrugged, a few weeks, mostly. At this time, you can rely on your powers and mine as well. Sage of Six Paths mode is limited by the chakra amount that you possess, so I suggest you focus on yourself for now and don't use it unless you absolutely have to. Being an anchor is your job while I reel them in. What? Someone took your little invite seriously. Naruto scowls at this. Yo-ho! Someone from behind him waved. Naruto opened his eyes, but never turned around. You're not going to turn around and face me? That's kind of rude, you know. Naruto still maintained his back against the opponent. Whatever he was complaining, he had more stuff to do than listen to the mania. It was then that the intent turned hostile as Naruto dodged a bone spear that was aimed at his head and turned his head around. He was met with a white-haired man that looked like he was a patchwork of other parts stitched randomly in different directions. Can I help you? Naruto asked, obviously annoyed. The man gives a grin that tells the blonde that this one was a crazy. Probably revels in the suffering of others. It's been a while since I felt this excited. Come on, let me have some fun. No fear in the man's voice, a smile that told Naruto this guy looked like he was enjoying and inflicting pain. Sage mode still activated, the long silver-haired went after him like a bloodhound, eagerly trying to give him death. His hands transfigured into a massive arm, but Naruto simply summoned forth the golden gauntlets on his forearms and swatted that massive hand away, power multiplied by Sage mode and the gauntlets themselves. The gigantic hand of the man snapped in several places in a wave of power as it was sent away. You've got a lot of nerve if you think you can take me on as I am. Naruto's words did not hold venom in them, no, in fact it held only indifference. The white-haired man regained his balance, and shifted his other hand into a blade and slashed at Naruto. Naruto didn't even move. He simply raised his other hand and grabbed the flat part of the blade with it, and it immediately loses its motion to his neck. Naruto's assailant tried to pull away, but the blonde shatters the blade by slightly pulling it with his fingers while in Sage mode. With Naruto now in perfect range for his attacks, Naruto simply flashed his hands with several punches, embedding his fist 3 times at his supposed assailant's chest in less than 1 second, crushing skin, muscle and bone and even the man's lung. Naruto didn't stop there. The blonde continued his assault with a barrage of punches with his left and right hand, pummeling the man to the air and then performing a roundhouse kick, sending the man flying and landing several blocks away and on the street. Naruto went on the pursuit. He jumps from rooftop to rooftop, then lands on top of a telephone pole and sees the man trying to get up and vomiting quite a bit of blood. The man felt feeble all of a sudden. Like his legs were shaking as he tried to get up. He was scared, properly so, only a monster could do this to him. What did you do to me? The man asked, and Naruto just had a raised eyebrow. I just punched you, dingus. It's supposed to make you weak. But not like this. Naruto almost forgot that their chakra acts like suppressants and destroys or snuffs out cursed energy. At least, that's what Sasuke says. The white-haired man, deciding that his current form was not helping, decided to transform into a snake and slithers on to the nearest drainage before Naruto could land a finishing blow. He had been utterly crushed. He could only do 2 transformations to try and see what the blonde could do, and the boy responded so nonchalant that he broke his arm to pieces by merely pulling it away from his neck. It was there that he knew that he was not facing a mere sorcerer, he was facing a demon that could break the wills of even the most special grade curses that he knew. Mahito, the white-haired man made up of patchworks of curses, slithered away into the tunnels with only one thought in mind: he'll kill me, he'll kill me, he'll kill me. For the first time, Mahito wondered if a god would exist and protect him from the coming storm. He had to alert Kenjaku. The plan in Shibuya should not only be centered on Satoru Gojo, but this man as well. What was scarier, he didn't even begin to look like he was struggling. He winced. The blows this guy delivered were definitely hurting. Getting Kenjaku to heal him would be the first agenda in his mind. That fool he was toying with earlier can wait. Kyoto night time. Kuroka had quietly entered Kyoto with not much of a problem. Vala had asked her to find out what on earth was happening inside the city-state of the Yukai, and find out if someone was porking the queen. It was simple enough, you just have to listen to government workers gossiping at one of the restaurants they frequent and bam! Grapevine located. She could understand why the Governor-General didn't want Vala spearheading the job. He had the delicacy of a rampaging bull and does more trouble than he's worth when it comes to information gathering. Now, she wasn't exactly someone who would be able to sit in a crowd and be undetected. If anything, the way she looks and the way she dresses can make any onlookers around her. Kuroka admitted to herself that she was eye-catching, but if anyone in their group can move in subtlety, then it was her. Kuroka's first objective was to find that establishment where rumors liked to go about. Usually it was at the bar when it was after work. Lecherous men working in high positions tend to have looser lips when they talk as part of their bragging. In this case, a brothel should work even better. But Kuroka knew that seedy parts are also places where counterintelligence agents also hang out. The oldest trick in the book is also in the oldest profession in the world. She was not an amateur, but she certainly is no super spy who could weave her way out of countless entrapment operations in place. If Azazel were to be believed, then that is the last place she was going to and gather the appropriate amount of information she needed. She notices an udon restaurant near the palace and Kuroka grins, jackpot. She enters the restaurant and was met with a tanuki woman ushering her in and giving her seat right beside a table that was already occupied with a group of government workers, if the black suits were any indication. She sits down and orders the cheapest meal she can find. Kakyudon and some cold water, please, Naya. Kuroka cheerfully ordered and the tanuki nodded. Now she just has to listen to the other side. Have we made progress with the Jorumo? A female voice asked. The answer came from a male in the group. Yes, and it is just as we feared, there's someone on the inside of the council that hired her. Apparently, they were targeting Naruto and Sasuke on the basis of being humans in a city filled with yukai. Another female responded, not surprising. I see people sometimes give you guys dirty looks as well. The only reason there's no open hostility is because Yasaka-sama is vouching for all of you. There are humans in Kyoto? Since when? That caused her ear to twitch a bit as she waited for her udon. Had the capital changed policies and began accepting other entities? What about angels? Devils? Fallen angels? I don't think it's mere racial animosity that can cause such a problem for us. Because if it were, why are we not targeted as well? One of the females asked, speaking in a formal tone. The only male in the group nodded. I agree with that assessment. Naruto and Sasuke are our strongest and most capable fighters. It stands to reason that they pose a threat to the enemy. The question is the motive. Who would they be after, really? He continued. Are they after Kuna to be a hostage and force Yasaka's hand? Or are they really after Yasaka to cause the downfall of the only city-state that the Yukai has ever known? What did the Jorumo say? She's a pawn. Likely given the mission without explicit details that could incriminate our co-conspirator. But that is where we can strike. Kakashi-sensei, your ANBU training really is paying off, huh? Ambu? Assassination and Tactical Special Forces. I've never heard of such a group of special forces existing anywhere in the world, but let's say I believe you, then Kakashi-san, you're a freaking badass. Oh, I was part of it, had a lot of missions done in it too, but I don't recommend that kind of life unless you are actively looking for ways to die. Kuroka had shivers down her spine. No wonder they have good counterintelligence work, not exactly a super spy, but there was a special forces member in Yasaka's private circle that have been scrambling a lot of intelligence reports. Kakyudon is here. Kuroka quickly raised her hand and nodded quietly. Back on topic, we will be using the Jorumo to our advantage. We'll set her free and use her as bait. Can we even get her to cooperate with us? If it concerns her safety, freedom and sanity, she'll happily oblige probably. I still can't believe that you mentally tortured her by starving her and making her watch people gorge themselves on video to such a degree and then watch them crash out. That's absolutely evil, sensei. I'm hurt that you think of me that way, Sakura. I was just doing my job. How was I supposed to know that she already said she hasn't eaten in 3 days? I didn't come up with that idea premeditated, you know. Oh? And what was your initial idea? Make her watch a video of 2 girls eating, you know what? I'll just say it was premeditated and leave it at that. You know that's not helping your case, Kakashi-san. We should head back, the mission in Kanagawa is still ongoing. I'm afraid we'll be having a bigger menace with those cursed spirits than we'll do with out-of-control yokai. Kuroka kept her cool as the customers beside her table began to leave. She kept her attention to her bowl as she slowly ate her udon. Damn that Vala, he just sent me to a den of fucking snakes, Naya. She continues to eat and act like she was enjoying her meal. One of the customers going out, a girl with dark blue hair and a pair of white eyes, looked at her for a second before she turned her attention to her office mates. A cold shiver went down to Kuroka's spine. Should we trail her? Hinata asked and Kakashi answered. Keep your distance. Quickly finishing her meal and paying her tab, Kuroka decided to get on the next phase of her plan, look at that giant tree and assess whatever the hell it is. A new objective had to enter Kuroka's mind as she makes a brisk walk towards the giant tree at the edge of the city. Do not, by any means, attract the attention of these people. Information gathering, torture, counterintelligence, special forces, these guys mean business, Naya. If only Kuroka understood what she was getting into. And if only she could fully grasp what they were actually capable of. Morning. The alarm bell rings and Naruto decided to turn it off before heading back to sleep. The current hotel accommodations they were staying at had a comfy enough bed to sleep in after the patrol last night. After his encounter with that thing, no other curses appeared for the rest of the night. Sasuke basically had to do nothing and just pace himself around the town while Naruto slept. The blonde yawns and looks at his phone. It was 7 in the morning. He had told Sasuke about what he encountered during his patrol and Sasuke decided not to pursue. He will eventually show up when he wants to and Naruto had attacked him enough to scare him out of his wits. Just before thinking of heading out and investigate once more, Naruto suddenly heard his phone ringing and answered it. Uzumaki-san. Oh, Ken, right? How's it going, buddy? Your lessons were super effective. I managed to land a punch. Is Sasuke-san there with you? I want to thank him too. I got to walk on water. Oh right, Sasuke taught him chakra control exercises. Maybe after this mission he should go to Kamigo City and check up on the guy. Nah, Ken, those what I taught you are basics. But it's beneficial for you since you're still learning how to properly fight. Those control exercises Sasuke instilled in you are there to help you regulate your spiritual power. It's not the amount that makes you effective, Ken, it's how much energy you can control. I bet Momo was surprised when she saw you do that. It was an enlightening experience. I never knew you could do that with spiritual energy. Do you have any more ideas? We have a long weekend coming up, I'd like to train. Aizen found it cool when I did that. Naruto grinned and laughed at the last part of Ken's story. Well, I've been meaning to check up on you guys and see if Turbo Granny is acting up. And she damn well should, Ken. Let's see what we can do this weekend. Once Naruto had finished the call, the blonde immediately got dressed and opted to investigate. Something told him that the patchwork guy was involved. If so, then he just has to find that guy again and purposely deal with him. He had meant to scour the town right away, but after seeing a face that he could connect to those deaths, Naruto now had a goal to beat that guy. His good mood changed, his smile vanished as he frowned. Naruto made a mistake of letting that patchwork-looking guy slink away. He was not making that mistake again. As he got out of the hotel room, Naruto adjusted his blazer and his tie and began his search. It was a few hours later that Naruto was on the sidewalk and quietly scanning his surroundings, sunglasses hiding his eyes. He had been using Sage Mode to find his target throughout the morning and nothing was coming up. The guy was probably recovering. That didn't matter. Naruto was going to make sure to break the man's bones and destroy him. It was here that he sensed someone else's cursed energy. He turned around to the direction it was coming from and ran over there. The blonde stopped when he sees Yuji. The cursed energy he was letting out was immense. It reminded Naruto of himself. Not unlike chakra, cursed energy responded to a negative emotional spectrum. Naruto tapped into Kurama's negative emotion sensing. The blonde sensed doubt, despair, and hatred to himself. Naruto stopped in front of Yuji and spoke, "Hey Yuji, you okay?" Yuji looked up and noticed Naruto with his hands in his pockets. "I just found out about those cursed spirits yesterday." Naruto was silent for a few seconds and Yuji explains that the cursed spirits yesterday were transmogrified humans whose souls were forcibly changed and the fact that Yuji had killed one. Yuji was looking at his right hand and shakes. The thought of killing a person made him wonder if he was being brought closer to Sukuna. Naruto remained silent. Now he was even more determined to find that patchwork guy and get rid of him. Shiko-san told me that those humans whose souls were altered couldn't be changed back. Once the soul is altered, not even reverse cursed techniques can save them. Naruto took a mental note to look at what reverse cursed techniques were. "And now you're asking yourself your role in this if you think being a sorcerer is the correct path for you?" Naruto asked, and Yuji shook his head. "I was thinking if I question the value of life often like this, if it would cheapen the lives of everyone, especially if I have to take away some of them." Naruto understood. From the moment he became a shinobi, he didn't have a sense of how arduous and dangerous his chosen lifestyle was. In his early days as a ninja, sometimes it becomes a necessity to take a life for the sake of objectives and stopping the enemy from ever reaching his comrades. Being inundated with such lessons were warnings of the life he had to endure for his dream. They were being prepared as children, but that didn't mean they were actually ready for such an experience. So he understands Yuji's worry. To take lives were nothing to be celebrated about, but it was a stark reminder of what their job entails. "Come on, let's take a walk and then we'll talk about this." Yuji nodded and Naruto began, "It's not always going to be cut and dry, Yuji. You're given your orders and by the end of that order, you find out that you did something bad." He remembers his village's decision to kill the Uchiha. The decision to seal the tailed beast in Gaara. The decision to kidnap Hinata by Kumo. The decision to seal the Sanbai into Rin. Many of the decisions of the villages required a lot of pragmatism that sacrificed a few for the sake of their villages. You don't have to like it. There are parts of a job that will make you question why you're in there. But always remember, Yuji. You got there because you wanted to be there, either because you chose to be part of that, or because you want to change something. Naruto continues. Indeed, there were a lot of unsavory parts of the life he chose to live. But he chose that life in a way, to change his own. Yuji's reasons may not be the same, but Yuji didn't question his purpose here, only that if he would become a monster along the way. So it's fine to think that way. It means you're taking it seriously, giving it some thought. Who wouldn't do the same? Only actual insane people would disregard that kind of situation as a mere problem and not a decision to be made lightly. Yuji nodded as he looked down, so that others may live. Yet in the process, you rob someone else that chance. Take it from me, Yuji. Pain can't be avoided. It'll always be there, but suffering? That you can change. Yuji looks down as they arrive by the riverside. Naruto adjusts his necktie and loosens it as he grins. "Come on, did you practice doing what I suggested yesterday?" Yuji looked at Naruto and nodded. "Good, let's see what you did." Yuji did as he was told and faced the blonde. He lets his cursed energy flow around him, like an ominous, slow-moving flame. Naruto watches as Yuji applies his cursed energy into his right arm as he supports it with his left. Naruto watched as the cursed energy begins to swirl just below elbow as it went down to his fist. Naruto recalled that Yuji's cursed energy lagged behind Yuji's physical capability. His speed exceeded how much his cursed energy flowed. It only synced after a few seconds of applying it, which resulted in a double action attack, first for his fist, with the second impact being his cursed energy flowing like a concussion. The cursed energy began spinning faster and faster as it reached to Yuji's fist. The air around them began to turn turbulent as the cursed energy began spinning faster and faster. Yuji notices his right arm became blurry as he holds out the index and middle fingers supported by his thumb. The cursed energy became a blur of swirling force on his arm as he takes the stance of chambering his right arm back and leans low. Naruto simply performed a clone and said to Yuji, "Let's have you attack this clone and see the effect." The shadow clone then popped in a cloud of white smoke as it dashed at Yuji at the same speed as his. Yuji then dashed just as fast as he ran towards the blonde and thrust his neon Nookite, two-fingered spear hand, straight at the clone. The effect was instantaneous. His curse technique shreds into the clone and a vacuum of air occurs, pushing Yuji forward in a straight line as his attack forces the air in front of him to scatter, reducing drag and then propelling him forward. Yuji slides to a halt and sees the effect for himself. Beneath his feet was the ground, with a small trench forming in a straight line, approximately 10 meters away from the blonde. It seems like the attack makes you faster and closes the distance quick. You just drilled through that clone like it was a spear, and the force of your cursed energy shredded the rest. The spear that pierces the heavens, Sokai Kunukite, twin punishment thrusting hand. Yuji looked surprised as he executed the technique he envisioned in his mind yesterday. It was a simple Nukite thrust that compensated for his cursed energy manipulation's lag, to let his cursed energy keep up with his body. He never thought it could have such a devastating effect even though it was linear. But if he can whip this out quickly, it would be a devastating attack. Yuji then looks up and remembers he had to meet one of their contacts for their mission. He panics and then runs back to their meeting place and waves goodbye to Naruto while the blonde jumps to the nearest pole and looks for his target. By afternoon, he manages to meet up with Sasuke and begin sharing what they found. When they arrive at the riverbed once more, they saw Yuji talking to a boy that had half his face covered with his bangs and wearing a plain white shirt. "Yo, Yuji!" Naruto raised his hand and waved at his technical junior, while Sasuke nodded. "Asa!" "Naruto, Sasuke!" Yuji greeted with a salute as he introduces his newfound friend, Yoshino Junpei. Yuji explains how they met and Junpei's situation. Naruto was quick to detect with his negative emotion sensing distrust, contempt, fear, hatred. All feelings swirling inside Junpei, he looked withdrawn, perhaps a little scared. But the hatred he bore was immense. But it wasn't like it was pointed at them, no, it was more likely intended to something else, simmering beneath all of that distrust and fear. In contrast, Yuji's negative emotions had indifference beneath Yuji's calm demeanor. There was hatred there too, but that hatred didn't seem restrained, more like separate. Like Yuji was unaware of it. The investigation is a dud. We've seen the effects, but the culprit is impossible to find. We have suspects, but those people seem to have laid low for a while. We'll have to ask for backup in finding them. Sasuke said this as he then turns to Naruto. We'll need Hinata here to actively find our suspect. If it turns that he is the one who's been transfiguring people to death, then we need to hunt him down. Sasuke told the blonde. Junpei looked shocked for a moment but quickly buried his expression down. Naruto took note of the boy's expression as did Sasuke. Did this boy know who did it? Junpei, against his better judgment, decided to fish out for information. He had seen Mahito transfigure his bullies a few days ago as they died. How did he know the name Mahito? The man introduced himself with his name and showed him the world of sorcery and curses. Mahito told him of his talent and unlocked his latent ability. So why were they actively hunting him down? What exactly did this person do? He asked, and the duo looked at Junpei for a second before they turned to Yuji, who gave a thumbs up. He's being recruited to Tokyo Jujutsu High. He can see curses and he's a key witness with what happened with the transfigured people. That was partially true. Junpei was being suspected of using cursed techniques without Jujutsu Society's permission. In the eyes of the government, Junpei was a dangerous element that needed monitoring and control. Yuji was just lucky enough to intervene before Junpei could pull out his curse technique. To this, Naruto and Sasuke nodded. Sasuke spoke first. He's transfigured people to their deaths. His way of doing it touches the soul of the victim, and then change it to a point that the human becomes a curse themselves. Naruto added, I have a strong suspicion that he was the one who attacked me last night, but I fought him off. He managed to escape, but we're not letting him go this time. He's done something terrible, and we can't let him do what he wants or our boss and her people will be in trouble. Boss? Were these people part of the Yakuza or something? And Mahito wasn't exactly that kind of person. He targeted really scummy people. But then again, he never mentioned the impact of his own abilities, and how many people died with his hands. We've received reports, missing children as young as 4. Family members as old as 60. Most of the victims here were defenseless people, vulnerable to an assault. Sasuke says this while scrolling at his phone and then showing the two several victims by the picture. Junpei paled at that implication. That meant Mahito targeted everyone. What about him? Was he also a target too? Mahito's grip on him began to unfold. The questions plaguing Junpei's head slowly unravels Mahito's exploitation. Why would he do this? We'd like to stop him before more innocent people get involved and a mass hysteria happens that targets other innocent people. Yuji voiced his own concern. That would be bad. Negative emotions gives rise to curses. It would only be deadlier than before. Didn't Mahito tell him that sorcerers were terribly people who inflict curses? If so, why was Yuji so concerned about other people? Another perspective that shattered Junpei's view. His contempt is changing to distraught. What kind of lies was he fed with that his hatred festers even when the veil has been lifted from his eyes? Kurama asks Naruto as the blonde nodded and continued, finding the culprit is priority 1. Tonight I'll be heading out and we'll be hunting him down. We've got no time to wait for backup. It takes approximately 2 to 3 hours before reinforcements arrive from Kyoto. Junpei then had to speak. You guys suddenly act like you feel responsible for society. Why are you so set in finding him anyway? Sasuke looked at Naruto for a second before he gave his answer. It's not a moral impetus that makes us want to go after the culprit of these heinous crimes. Then he looked at his hands. It's that there are people who've been harmed by thoughtless actions and these actions propagate, leading to more problems. In the end, if no one is going to stop the one who strikes the hammer at people who are too weak to fight back, then you end their potential to do good, the same to the loved ones afflicted by such actions. In a way, that's how a curse works. Once you are afflicted with that curse and if you have no one to help you lift that curse, then you spread that same curse to those around you and the cycle repeats. The more Sasuke digs into his past, the more he realizes just how much of a puppet he had been by the people around him. How he spread that curse of his outwardly and drowned everyone that tried to get him out of it in sorrow. Naruto then looks down and said there are times when we think that enough is enough. We try to fight back, but we end up giving the same problem that we got in the first place. It's a never-ending cycle of pain and sorrow. At some point, it has to stop. If we let this continue, more people will die, more people will not have that chance to do good, or people who want to redeem themselves. Society will try to push you down, but if you let it, and it consumes you, then by doing the same methods, you've already lost. It isn't coming out of a sense of duty, but understanding pain. Junpei looked down. He finally understood why Yuji didn't want to kill in a swift decision. Yuji understood the value of human life and questioning the decision to plunder it from people made Junpei see why he was hesitant to do so. But with Naruto and Sasuke, the value of that life extends to the people around it. People who share memories together, laugh and cry together, bond together throughout trying times. If that were taken away, people become distraught and inconsolable. They do irrational things, things that can lead down to a path of destruction. He still felt no sympathy to his bullies and to the people who turned a blind eye just for convenience. But seeing that people like Yuji, Naruto and Sasuke take a look into society, and see it through their lens, he felt somewhat better. There were still people out there who would willingly help out one another. Ah, Junpei? Is that you? A voice suddenly calls them out of nowhere, and the quartet turns around, seeing a middle-aged woman waving at them and carrying groceries. Mom? Junpei asked, seeing his mother go down to the riverbank and walk towards them, greeting them and finally getting to know them. For the first time in Junpei's life, he had friends coming over for dinner. Sasuke and Naruto looked at each other and nodded. They understood their assignment with the blonde stealthily performing the seal of the Kage Bunshin, and it began its patrol for the night. They were both curious about how this new entity that they discovered operated and see to it if whatever they felt in Junpei wasn't something dangerous that they had to deal with. Once they got into Junpei's house, Naruto could hear Kurama stir once more. A lot of negative emotions are spilling over in this house. Something isn't quite right. Kurama warned Naruto and the blonde understood. It was coming from one place. Naruto looked at Sasuke and told him what Kurama had discovered. They had to make a call tonight. That evening, a great tragedy had been prevented. And Yuji gains a lifelong ally. Kyoto. Kuroka stood in a daze in front of the large tree that was at the outskirts of the Yukai metropolis. Standing before her was a tree so enormous, it could be mistaken to be the size of a skyscraper. Perhaps even larger, as the branches atop the canopy spreads out and stretches several blocks away in one of the city's bustling neighborhoods. But such a beautiful sight was almost ruined when some old bat kept complaining that her property's value decreased with the giant tree blocking a scenic view by her balcony. But that wasn't what Kuroka was mesmerized at. This tree was generating a familiar energy that Kuroka knew but somehow felt different. She had been laying low in the suburban part of the city for at least a day and a half, making sure that her presence was just a blip in this town's radar. But being exposed to this energy, she could feel like she wouldn't mind being found out. After all, the energy was powering her up strangely. The giant tree was absorbing energy from the atmosphere and then converting that energy, and stabilizing it as it lets out in a completely different form. She stands there, in the middle of the night, her feet over in one of the roots, and it felt her ki meld with this strange new energy. Even with a cold breeze touches her, warmth was all she could feel. This tree gave her a sense of protection, as if it christens her as one of its own. She thought that she could sit here for hours and would get drunk from this energy on its own. Her ears pop up as she breathlessly whispers to the tree, "What are you, Naya?" But the tree did not answer her. Slowly letting her hand touch the tree's bark, Kuroka felt herself positively energized from it. Like it was sharing what it produced to her. "Naya!" She shrieked, stepped back, and felt something incredible. Whatever this was, Kuroka didn't want to get out of this city anytime soon. Vala's report can wait. Her momentary euphoria would be halted as she felt a familiar energy signature. She looks around and sees the 3 women who she had been spying on the other day walking to the other side of the tree. Kuroka, realizing that she needed more information about her targets, decided to scale the giant tree and let her amplified hearing do the job to eavesdrop on the 3 women. I forgot to ask, I've only seen a glimpse of what Naruto-san and Sasuke-san can do. But exactly how strong are they compared to Kakashi-san? He's the Spec Ops operative with a lot of experience, but how does Naruto-san and Sasuke-san compare? Sakura hummed a little and then looked up. Kajiro didn't seem like the type to fish out information to divulge to others. If anything, she looked like a person trustworthy for them. In shinobi society, there are certain ranks that exist for ninja signifying strength and experience. Kajiro looked up and said, "You mean like the old times? We have that here, but in the old texts like the Bansenshuki, the ranks started off as from Genin, Chunin, and Jounin." Sakura raised an eyebrow at that, and her spine shivered. That was a terrible amount of coincidence considering their rank, although in their world, there was one rank above the seasoned Jounin. It was here that Hinata replied, "In our place, those ranks exist and they pertain respectively, from lowest to highest rank. But we have one more rank higher than that. They are called Kage level shinobi." Kage level? Kajiro asked, the level above Jounin? Like samurai commanders or daimyo? She looked eager to know, and Sakura obliged her with an answer. Yes, Kage level. Kakashi-sensei, despite his demeanor, is a Jounin-level shinobi but a candidate for Kage level due to impressive skill sets and thinking. You see it despite his posture, he's always on alert. He never really lets his guard down, and has a proficiency in all shinobi branches. Kajiro whistled, "That's pretty impressive of him." Hinata nodded. He was hailed a genius at a young age. By the time he was 12, he was already officially recognized as a Jounin. Wow. Yeah, he's pretty amazing once you actually watch him in action. The reason I'm using Kakashi-sensei as an example is because I want you to understand him as the measuring stick on how elite shinobi are recognized. Kakashi-sensei is the standard to understand truly strong shinobi. If he were to be a Kage, he would be the golden standard to where all Kage-level shinobi should operate. Sakura said this analytically as she crossed her arms. Impossibly good taijutsu, an immense arsenal of ninjutsu and genjutsu, also knowledgeable in fuinjutsu, the list goes on. Kakashi's stat sheet was an impressive list. Much more than an average shinobi even for Jounin, and only beaten out with abilities that could be compared to the likes of Hashirama, the first Hokage who had an innate bloodline limit, or highly specialized jutsu that exceeds far beyond of what is expected of them like the Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato. Naruto and Sasuke-kun are on that same category, but even Kage-level shinobi find it hard to keep up with them. They have certain qualities that make their abilities seem far more impressive than most Kage have in their arsenal. It's so destructive that I don't even want to talk about most of them. Let's just say that if they go all out, entire countries would put them on a watch list if they even exist in the aftermath. Naruto's taijutsu was no joke. It improved by leaps and bounds ever since he mastered Sage Mode. The Kawazukyumite was a near-flawless taijutsu style that even the Goken would be hard-pressed to fight as it leaves little to no openings. Even the Hyuga clan's vaunted Juken would find it difficult to beat. And when he became faster, that taijutsu simply ascended him to a status difficult to fight against. Even the Reikage, with his impressive physique, would have a hard time fighting against Naruto's taijutsu. With his transformations all the way up to Rikudo Sennin mode, there would be no one that can stop him. Sasuke, on the other hand, displayed his powers through his ninjutsu. He has a lower amount of jutsu than Kakashi, but what Sasuke had was the potency and versatility of his jutsu repertoire, supplemented by his taijutsu and bukijutsu. He may not be a powerhouse like Naruto with immense speed and power under his belt, but Sasuke more than made up for it with his ninjutsu. Amenoto Jikura, heavenly hand power, was such an overpowered Jikuken ninjutsu that Sasuke can circumvent most defenses she could think of. You're not exaggerating, are you? I can see it in your face, Sakura-san. Is that why you want to learn our style of senjutsu and further down the line Tuki? It wasn't much, but Sakura wanted to keep up with her teammates. I want to learn as much advantage as I can. Naruto and Sasuke-kun are people who have inherited an ancient power in our home. Not out of lineage, but out of circumstance. They bear burdens that we can't even fathom. I just can't bear watching them suffer carrying sins that they don't have to. Both of them carried the burden of duty, a promise to themselves and through the hardships they had faced. One carries the burden of failed promises. The promise of a better world gone from his hands. And the other carries the promise of change, a revolution that would spark a world without needless sacrifice, a world that was never given a chance to change. To this Hinata nodded, though for her, she had been secretly training on her own. Since her awakening in this world, she had felt a change within her. Like somehow, her body had begun to change, and that trying to assess the flow of her chakra was only the first step to a confusing conclusion that her chakra was in flux. Her body was not rejecting her chakra, but rather her chakra was feeding her changing body for something else. It started with the abnormal flow of chakra to her head, then to her eyes, and pretty soon the network in her body began to form small changes. She had noticed her techniques had become quite denser. Her chakra lions in doing her Juho Saoshiken were a darker shade of purple. She had a fear of using kaiten in a small space. For fear of it doing something completely unexpected. She would have to do sword practice for now. Naruto gave her a very weird sword, one that would replicate into a set number of times and float around her. She had been very averse to using weapons even before. But Naruto had a point that having a bag of tricks was a necessity, as their jutsu would serve as a surprise when it needed. It would be redundant, however, as one of the swords given to her, the Shaotorin, Lesser Communion, gave her intimate expertise of using a blade, as if Tenten had gifted her the kinetic expertise to wield as word without even studying it. But Hinata did not want to rely on such. If ever she would be forced to use a blade that was not the Shaotorin like her first sword, the Datorin, then she would not be able to effectively use it. As they begin their training together, Kuroka couldn't help but shudder. So Yasaka now has potentially 2 monsters in her employ that could match ultimate class devils like Surzex, huh? Not only a competent special operative that functioned as the intelligence officer, there were also 2 people out there that can give a lot of strong people an uncomfortable time in the heat. Kuroka would like to pay good money to see those 2 in action against those detestable devils one day. But she noted that the 3 below her were nothing to sneeze at either. She could feel their energy. It was much like this tree, active, vibrant, and yet tranquil and safe. But was she willing to watch them grow? Or should she nip it in the bud? Another faction having a ridiculous amount of strength was going to be a headache. But if she decides to strike now, without knowing full well just how powerful these 2 were, she would be gambling her chances and possibly be countered, and open hostilities were sure to happen in between the Yukai and the fallen angels. Kuroka had to simmer down. The last part was not something that was needed. She was not a monster. Not like her former king. She would simply just remain silent, studying the people of interest beneath her, and act like an obedient cat. If conflict was unnecessary, she would need to avoid it. A few minutes later, a phone call disrupts their training as Kajiro answered the phone. Yes, Naruto-san? Kajiro puts the phone on loudspeaker. Kajiro? What do you know about the great calamity Ryomen Sukuna?